Chapter 1968. The Venerable of Numinous Treasure was certain. Among the angels who'd been summoned, there had to be someone who'd rebelled and pledged loyalty to Yale. He was so sure. It was all thanks to 1745's word. He'd said. Ji Yuan had already fought his way to the southern god realm. In other words, the outsiders were in the midst of war. The angels, they absolutely wouldn't work for Yale. Before the Angel King died, he'd ordered 2 8-winged angels to submit their clansmen to Yi Zichen. In other words, the angels belonged to Ji Yuan's side. The outsiders had decided to release the angels. Why? Could it be that they felt that Ji Yuan was too weak and wanted to provide some support to make the game more interesting? If this was a game, that might have happened. Unfortunately, this wasn't a game. This was a real war. A battle of blood. The winner was king and the loser was a bandit. If they lost, they might even pay the price with their lives. No matter how much the outsiders underestimated Ji Yuan, they wouldn't be so stupid as to cause trouble for themselves. Therefore, this was the only possibility. The outsiders had released the angels for a reason, but they didn't want to thank them. Given the current situation, what they wanted had to do with Ji Yuan. The release of the angel race would very likely make the situation of the Outerium god race more optimistic. Then, there had to be spies. A series of possibilities flashed through the Venerable of Numinous Treasure's mind. He'd lived for too long. Dirty tricks, dirty tricks. He was an ancestor-level figure. The outsiders want to release us? The members of the Angel clan were stunned for a moment. Then, everyone revealed a dignified expression. They also knew that it was too abrupt to release them. They needed a reasonable explanation. They'd trapped them so desperately, but now they wanted to release them. That's right, I absolutely didn't hear wrong. 1745's eyes were filled with certainty. He truly heard the news with his own ears. His first thought was to rush back and report. Right now, Bai Ning is in charge of the outsiders' military power. What I heard just now was someone sent by his subordinate. His words were forceful, demanding that the guards release us. Is there a reason? Asked the 8-winged elder. This. Number 1745 shook his head. He was summoned. Coincidentally, Bai Ning's chief commander and steward were talking not far away. It was already not easy for them to hear this. Part of what he said just now was also his deduction. The reason they might hear. Not long after, the barrier that trapped the Angel clan was opened. The ones who walked in were the Outer Realm God Race's commander and the steward who was guarding them. Your luck is not bad. Someone is protecting you. The steward snorted with a fake smile. His eyes were filled with a disgusting expression. He hated the angel race. As for the reason, he felt that the wings on the back of the angel race were like an alien race of the god race. They did not deserve to live in the territory of the god race. He was very happy to be ordered by Yale to guard this place. He had been using his authority to create some trouble for the Angel clan. Bai Ning had looked for him earlier, he refused. It was also because he didn't want to let the Angel clan off so easily. Unfortunately, Bai Ning gave the order. With his life on the line, he decided to let these beasts go. Anyway, even if they went to war, they would not be able to avoid death. I am the chief commander under Commander Bai Ning. Right now, the Outer Realm God race is in dire straits. The era's enemy has already invaded the God race. General Bai Ning hopes that everyone can let go of past enmity. For the God race, go to hell. Boom, there were no signs. Someone among the Angel clan suddenly attacked. As the chief commander had no warning, he was directly beaten until he vomited blood and fell to the ground. Thank Commander Bai Ning for us. After we kill Yale, we will spare his life. Go. The Angel clan inside the barrier kept flying out. At this time, it was too late for the steward to close the barrier. More importantly, before he could react, he had already been knocked unconscious on the ground. The barrier was opened. Those Angel clan members who had been imprisoned for too long were like wild beasts that had been suppressed for too long. They flapped their wings and flew high. For the Angel clan, the speech of the chief commander just now was very useful. The Outer Realm God race was in chaos. They needed the strength of the Angel clan to resist the attack of the Era. Therefore, open the barrier and let them out. It was very reasonable. Most of the Angel clan, or rather, almost all of them agreed with this approach. The Angel clan was indeed a very powerful combat force. It was understandable that Bai Ning would make such a decision. Unfortunately, the Venerable of Numinous Treasure was here. He could be considered the only one who really stayed out of the matter. Whether it was the Angel clan, the God race, or the Era, he did not have a strong sense of belonging. He only considered from the most reasonable point of view, whether Bai Ning had a reason to do so. After a long time, the result he came to was that he did not. The chief commander must be a meticulous person. He needed to strategize so that he could lead his men to victory. The Angel clan, they were an uneasy factor. The Outer Realm God race had not reached the point of true despair. They still had a chance and a choice to resist. Then, why did he release the Angel clan? As for who the Angel clan was leaning towards, all the higher-ups involved in this war were clear: the Era. The choice between the Era and the Outer Realm God race. It might be 80% to 20%. Would Bai Ning take such a risk, just for this 20% possibility? He would not. Then the only result. The Venerable of Numinous Treasure had already thought of it. This was a premeditated release. There was a mole on Yale's side among these Angel clan. It was just that, it was too late even if he said it now. The Angel clan, who had been trapped for too long, had accumulated anger in their hearts. They flew out crazily. More importantly, he did not know who the mole was. He also did not think clearly about the meaning and value of the existence of this mole. The only thing he could do was to keep an eye on them. At least, he did not want to be tricked. The Angel clan left the barrier at the beginning. At this time, the unconscious steward also woke up from the ground. Looking at the inside of the barrier that was already empty, the steward fell to the ground. This was the mission given to him by Yale. He looked at the chief commander on the ground again. If Lord Yale asks, I hope that Commander Bai Ning can tell the truth. The steward was very flustered, afraid of taking responsibility. I don't need you to remind me. At this moment, the seriously injured chief commander suddenly got up from the ground. He gently dusted off the dust on his clothes. He did not look seriously injured at all. Commander Bai Ning will tell the truth. If Lord Yale really asks, just say that you were forced. As soon as his voice fell, the chief commander sent a blue signal toward the void. This signal represented Chapter 1969. The base camp of the God race. The signal released by the commander-in-chief was received by the signal officer. Before the signal officer could arrive at Bai Ning's place, the commander-in-chiefs who stayed here had already moved. They did not dare to delay at all. Bai Ning's order was too firm. Before the Angel clan was released, the God race could not take even half a step back. Unfortunately, those suicide squads of the demon race were not afraid of death at all. The incessant attacks caused the Outer Realm gods to gradually turn from fear to numbness. They wanted to retreat. The commander-in-chief did not allow them to retreat. They would die if they retreated, and they would die if they advanced. Caught between a rock and a hard place, they began to lose their will and stood at the forefront of the war like the walking dead. Saber, even when it pierced into their bodies, they still did not know pain. The order they received was to defend to the death and not retreat. Their thoughts were the same. It was fine as long as he could complete the mission. Little did they know that not only were the extraterritorial deities numb, but the commander was also anxious. But what could he do? If they didn't pressure the god, Bai Ning would take their heads. In his heart, he had been thinking of releasing the angel race as soon as possible. At this moment, they no longer cared about releasing the angels. As long as they were released, it was fine. Finally, the angel race had been released. The commanders let out long sighs of relief, and quickly reported to Bai Ning. Commander-in-Chief, yes, I already know. When the Commander-in-Chief hurried over, Bai Ning was looking up at the void. The freed angels converged into a white river. They traversed through the void of the outworld god race. The wings of the angel race were too conspicuous. Even if they wanted to disguise themselves, the wings on their back could still clearly determine their identity. Even without the Commander-in-Chief's signal, Bai Ning still knew that the angel clan had been released. He calculated the time. It seemed that these fellows really valued their own lives more. As soon as he said that their lives were linked, everything that could not be done had been done. And it was done very quickly. Everyone wanted to be a wily old fox and find an easy job. However, it was a chaotic time and there was no time for them to relax. If you really want to relax, don't stay in this position. Commander-in-Chief, the angels have been released. Can our people retreat? The gods below were all tired and numb from all the fighting. Ji Yuan's group of devils really didn't care about their lives, charging at the formation with all their might. If our people can hold on a little longer. Let me see, Bai Ning chuckled and looked up. It was true. Previously, he had told them to defend their positions, and they were still there. He glanced at the marshal in front of him. His eyes were restless. In order to secure this position, he must have used all his methods. Your defense is quite good. Didn't you say that you couldn't hold on? Now, isn't your defense very good? Sometimes, if no one pushes them, no one knows where their limits are. Sir, you are right. The commander nodded in agreement. Of course, he would not say how much suffering they and their subordinates had suffered in order to defend this place where Bai Ning had given his orders. Not important. Even if he did, Bai Ning might not listen to him. The only thing he needed now was for Bai Ning to relent and let their people come down. It was enough. Tell them to withdraw. Under the expectant gazes of the commanders, Bai Ning finally relented. Everyone smiled as if a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders. Bai Ning and his commander were even more beaming with joy. This subordinate thanks you on behalf of the God Race warriors. Pull them back and let the others take over. This time, it's not to defend, but to kill their way out. Wherever Ji Yuan killed his way in, that's where he killed his way in. Clap, the weapon in the commander's hand fell to the ground. He looked at Bai Ning blankly, doubting his own ears. Kill their way out. Defending was already a problem, but he asked them to kill their way out. What, you can't do it? Bai Ning frowned. The old fox, who had become Bai Ning's deputy, silently mourned for the commanders and deputy generals. The era of the Dark God King Bai Ning was a ruthless man. He was ruthless to his enemies and even more ruthless to his own people. Mercy did not lead soldiers. Bai Ning was definitely a natural-born weapon master, because he would never show any mercy in his heart. To win. In his eyes, anyone's death was worth it. His soldiers were no longer lives, they were chess pieces that could be used to win the battle. That was all. The commander and Bai Ning looked at each other for a long time. From Bai Ning's emotionless eyes, he saw only despair. Couldn't do it? If he wanted to, it was actually very simple. Their commander didn't need to charge and break through enemy lines. As long as he gave the order, his soldiers would naturally do their best to complete his order. This was a warrior. No matter where or when, a soldier's job was to obey. To complete the task assigned by the superior. Just like now, they were already numb from being beaten by the demon race, but the god race still held their ground without retreating. Why? Wasn't it to complete the order? To the commander, he only needed to be the messenger of Bai Ning's new order. To tell the people below, Bai Ning asked us to fight our way out. He believed that most people would still obey. But he wouldn't do that. He couldn't do it. He had witnessed the numbness of the god race. If he asked them to fight their way out, he would be pushing them to their death. This was no longer a matter of winning or losing. This was a matter of humanity. He didn't want to lose his humanity for a war. Bang! The helmet on his head was taken off. The sword on his waist was taken off. The commander token in his hand was thrown to the ground. The other commanders and deputy generals looked at this scene in shock. They wanted to dissuade him but didn't dare. Bai Ning was also silently watching all this. What, you're not doing it anymore? I'm incompetent. I can no longer be the commander. This subordinate will continue to serve the god race as a warrior. As for the commander, you should find someone else to be. Then get lost. There was no pity in Bai Ning's eyes. He didn't try to persuade him to stay. Even more mockery. Without even looking at the commander who was leaving, Bai Ning glanced at the other commanders and deputy generals. You see? If you don't want to do it, you can be like him. Put down everything that belongs to you and leave. Just be a dog ordered around by others. Everyone was silent, but they couldn't help but whisper in their hearts. Even if they didn't put it down, weren't they? Sitting in the commander's position, they didn't have any freedom. They had to listen to Bai Ning's arrangements. What was the difference between them and dogs ordered around by others? Maybe, the only difference was that they were more advanced dogs? Pretending to be a grandson in front of Bai Ning and pretending to be a grandfather in front of the god race? You don't? After waiting for a long time, the commanders and deputy generals didn't make any move. Bai Ning snorted lightly. The disdain in his eyes was even stronger than when he faced the previous commander. Chapter 1970. Kindness did not lead soldiers. Bai Ning's character was perfect for this. In his eyes, the only one who deserved his leniency was his daughter. This might also be the love parents had for their children. The commander-in-chief asked to resign. To him, it was a ridiculous joke. If he couldn't even bear this little pressure, what qualifications did he have to be a commander-in-chief? Could it be that during the war, because he felt sorry for his soldiers, he didn't let them charge? Did he have to surrender? That was ridiculous. To be in power was to be cold-blooded. He shouldn't let anything affect his heart. But he found the other commander-in-chief even more ridiculous. He was angry but didn't dare to speak. He was angry but didn't dare to express it. Maybe there was no one in this world worthy of his special treatment. Only the Dark God King back then to be able to make him willingly serve. Unfortunately, that Lord God King was no longer here. He couldn't help but show a touch of sadness in his eyes, but he restrained it in an instant. His eyes were still as cold as before. The old fox next to him felt that he was hallucinating. Bai Ning, he showed a look of nostalgia. Old man, it's not bad to be my assistant, right? At this moment, maybe Bai Ming noticed the old fox's attention, or maybe Bai Ming wanted to talk to him, so he looked at him. The old fox hurriedly smiled apologetically. General Bai, what are you talking about? It's always been my wish to be your assistant. Now that my wish has been fulfilled, I'm very happy. You old man, you're always so eloquent. Bai Ning laughed and patted the old fox's head. At such an old age, being patted on the head. This was a blatant insult. The old fox didn't dare to be angry at this. The smile in his eyes was even brighter. He looked as if he was being caressed by his master, showing a happy expression. He was even more surprised that Bai Ning smiled at him. Since Ji Yuan attacked the Protoss, Bai Ning's brows had never relaxed. Especially with Bai Yen and other commander-in-chief's warmth. His face was as gloomy as water. He smiled. Did he think of a countermeasure to deal with Ji Yuan? General Bai, you are. I'm old, but I'm not stupid. Bai Ning always looked as if he could see what the other party was going to say. Little did he know that this kind of behavior of his was the most annoying. The commanders were unhappy, but they did not dare to show it. They were all generals, no matter what he said. He was interrupted halfway. Bai Ning looked like he knew everything. What was he doing? Were they all idiots? The old fox was naturally the same, but all he could do was smile. That was indeed the case. Bai Ning really knew what the wily old fox was going to say before he opened his mouth. Although Ji Yuan's offensive is fierce, and our god race is at a disadvantage because of those fools. But they won't be arrogant for long. Angels? The old fox asked. Bai Ning nodded, still looking as smart as ever. The sly old fox's heart trembled when he heard this. As expected, the angel race was a necessary means for Bai Ning to turn the tables. No wonder he dared to go against Yale and insisted on releasing the angels. If he could win, even Yale would not blame him in any way. What's the use of the angel clan? The old fox humbly asked. He really couldn't think of any effect the angel race could have at this time. You want to know? If you want to know, then do something for me. Bai Ning and the old fox's secret plan began in the god race's camp. Outside the barrier, the era's almighties were also discussing their own situations. Yeezy, is it really alright to let the demons charge? The speaker was Emperor Hades. This was the second time he'd asked, and the main reason was, he felt that the demons had died too tragically. Half a day. More than half of the demons were dead. The remaining demons continued to charge forward, but Yi Zichen didn't signal the Yaoan gods to send any reinforcements. At first, the demon race and the god race, who were already hostile to the demon race, had even secretly applauded the death of the demon race. But as more and more demons died, they couldn't bear to see this happen. They knew that mercy didn't lead an army. But he was so ruthless, watching millions of demon elites die one after another. They couldn't bear to watch any longer. You couldn't bear to see this happen? Yi Zichen's tone was exactly the same as Bai Ning's. His coldness chilled Emperor Hades's heart. It was as if the demons weren't dying at all. Yi Emperor Hades, this is a battlefield. Yi Zichen looked at him domineeringly. I am the Emperor Star. You can call me Star Lord Yi, or you can call me Emperor Yi. No matter how close we are, that's only in normal times. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Zichen continued. Letting the demons charge wasn't my decision. It was the demon emperor's. I thought it was feasible, so I agreed. There were 3 reasons. First, the demons were incomparably bloodthirsty. Second, the demon emperor wanted to use this battle to reshuffle the demons' power. Although the demons obeyed him, they still had the old demon emperor's old subordinate. Third, this was his way of proving his worth to the Yaoan gods. Bloodthirst was built on the price of one's life. In order to stabilize his position, Zhan Luan had reshuffled the demons' power. Emperor Hades was a ruler of a region. He held the river Styx. Even with Emperor Hades's inheritance, he couldn't be so cold-blooded. He was truly afraid. He was afraid of these rulers. Yi Zichen was a stranger to him, a frighteningly stranger. As for Ming, he wants to prove something. He wants to prove that the demons want to reconcile with the Yaoan gods. He doesn't want the Yaoan demons to look at the demons any differently. He wants to use this battle to tell everyone that the demons are willing to risk their lives for the sake of the new era. This is something the entire demon race agreed to. Emperor Hades was suddenly speechless. After a long while, he stared blankly at the demon emperor, who stood at the very front, his eyes devoid of any emotion as he commanded the demons to charge forward. He looked at the demon elites, who had no intention of retreating. They'd actually agreed. Ask yourself this. At the beginning, didn't you ever think that it would be good if the demons died? If only more of them died, that would be great. Didn't you ever think that way? The demon emperor fell silent. It had. But was it worth it? Sometimes, the recasting of an era requires these vanguards. They want to give their descendants a peaceful future. They don't want their descendants to be rejected just because they're demons. They have to do this. Yi Zichen said seriously. Emperor Hades, you're an emperor yourself. Don't you understand this principle? Perhaps the relationship between the 3 sides can be mended over time, but isn't this the most effective way? I understand. Emperor Hades took a deep breath. How much longer are they going to charge? Not much longer. Have the Yaoan gods get ready. Chapter 1971. The first spurt of energy, the second spurt of energy, the third exhaustion. For some reason, this sentence seemed to have lost its effect when it came to the demon race. How many times had he charged? Even the outer realm god race, who had always been at odds with them, might have forgotten about it. All they could remember was, the charge of the devils was more ferocious each time. The god race's resistance became weaker and weaker. One had to know, the Outerium god race was a defender. They had the geographical advantage. The charge of the demon race had always been accompanied by a painful price of death. Why? It was as if they did not know fear. The charge never stopped. Not only that, not long ago, the gods of the god race heard a piece of news that made them despair. Defend? It was no longer enough to satisfy the requirements of those commanders. The commander-in-chief ordered them to kill their way out. It seemed that all of this was Commander Bai Ning's idea. One of the commanders couldn't understand and even took the initiative to resign from his position. The chief commander did not understand. How could these lowly soldiers understand? They had been defending for too long. Facing the demons who were as fierce as wild beasts, they did not retreat even half a step. Such persistence, what he got in return was a command to attack. Kill! Someone shouted weakly. All the gods forced themselves to be alert, and their hands that were holding onto their weapons were trembling slightly. Dragging his feet, his face was filled with exhaustion. Forward! Charge! Contrary to the situation of the outer realm god race, the elites of the demon race were still as aggressive as ever. His eyes were ferocious and his mouth was roaring. All of them were like ferocious beasts that were reflected in the eyes of the deities from the outer realms. In terms of momentum, the Outerium god race had already lost. What made them even more desperate was that after the devil race, there were still the demon race and god race elites that appeared like a tide. Watching the demon race charge, the Yao race and the god race had changed their attitude towards the demon race. During this period of time, they were accumulating a breath of air in their hearts. When they received the order from their superiors, they would be able to go out and face the enemy. They were like ferocious tigers released from their cages as they vented their anger on the extraterritorial gods. It could be said, the gods of the outer realm god race were pitiful. They encountered the devil race who were not afraid of death, and they also encountered the monster race and the god race who were accumulating resentment. For a moment, the situation was somewhat one-sided. Even though the god race had the home field advantage, they were still unable to withstand the combined attacks of the god, Yao, and demon races. Many injured demons were taken care of by the demon clan and the god clan. Even in the face of death, the demons, who would not be moved in the slightest, inadvertently teared up. They did it. The Yao clan and the god clan's impression of them had changed. His eyes were moist because the demon race could finally be accepted by the demon race and the god race, and because of the demon race who had sacrificed themselves bravely in the charge, everything was worth it. In the future, the demon race could live in harmony with the demon race and the god race. Epic, it will be a whole. A family. Brothers of the demon race, it's been hard enough. Brothers of the divine race and Yao race, charge. Push forward. It kept pushing forward. The Outerium god race retreated step by step. The number of gods being wiped out was actually faster than the number of gods being replenished. As the new era progressed, the gods who had always been on tenterhooks, they panicked again. Commander-in-Chief, 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 Bai Ning's tent was restless. One battle report after another was delivered to his ears, but he remained expressionless and unmoving. To him, it was no big deal. Commander-in-Chief, shut up! However, his mind was constantly disturbed by these news. Bai Ning felt a little impatient. Are the other commanders all dead? Am I the only one who can solve the problems of these idiots? It's the commanders. If the god race riots suppress them. If the divine soldiers can't beat them, tell them that if they retreat again, they won't be the ones dying, but their families. If they wish to see their loved ones die in front of them, then they can continue being numb. Bai Ning snorted angrily. He really didn't understand why such a simple problem would come to him. Little did he know, it was also the reason why he became like this. It was a very simple problem. The commanders were also very clear about it. But it was Bai Ning's domineering attitude that made them not dare to make any decisions. The wrong decision would be called stupid. The right decision would not be affirmed. Then why should they make decisions? They could just be a puppet, a dog that could wag its tail. The soldier trembled as he left. Before he left the camp, Bai Ning stopped him again. Tell those idiots to use their brains. If they keep bothering me with this sort of thing, you and the rest of them better watch out for your heads. Yes. Scram. Bai Ning watched the soldier scramble out of the tent. Only then did his expression return to normal. He tapped his fingers on the table and looked at the empty chair in front of him. This should be the seat of the wily old fox. But now it was empty. As for why it was empty, it was simple. The wily old fox had gone to do something for him. Something that could decide victory or defeat. Easy, the outsiders are scared out of their wits. Our people can slaughter their way into their territory at any time. Emperor Hades listened to the news and said to Yi Zichen. He was thrilled to hear this news. Before setting out, he'd hesitated. Was the outsiders really something their era could resist? He never would have guessed. In the end, they'd been one-sidedly crushed. The outsiders couldn't even fight back against the era. Are you sure? Yi Zichen grinned at Emperor Hades. Before Yi Zichen could even finish speaking, Yin Shang hurried over. The gods are fighting back. The gods had faith too. The era had a future, and the gods had a future for themselves too. Bai Ning's words had an effect. At the mention of the gods' parents, the numb gods summoned their last bit of courage and killed their enemies without fear of death. Their overall strength was already stronger than the era's. After their counterattack, the era instantly fell into a disadvantageous position. The demon emperor, great emperor Baiyan. The emperors have all taken action, and the outsiders have sent their overgods as well. We're still a bit weaker than them. What? Emperor Hades arched his brows. F***ck, I'm going. What are you going to do? Come back. Yi Zichen reached out and pulled Emperor Hades back, his gaze still relaxed. A counterattack is normal. The outsiders have always been stronger than our era. If they hadn't fought back, I'd have found it strange. But it seems everything is as I expected. Then, Yi Zichen twisted his neck. Let our people retreat. Don't fight with the Outerium god race anymore. Retreat outside the barrier. Yi Zi. Emperor Hades was confused. They'd fought their way in, but now they had to retreat? Retreat. Listen to me. Trust me. Chapter 1972. In the outer Protoss void, the angel tribe took advantage of the chaos to escape from the seal. They gathered into a long white river in the void. Among them it was as if there was a lost angel. He wandered above the Protoss void in a daze. From his eyes, he seemed to be searching for their group. There were many gods around him who had been ordered to hunt down the angel tribe. While he was frantically trying to avoid the true god's pursuit, he could not help but curse. Motherf ***, here we go again, the lost angel cursed at the gods behind him. The wings on his back kept flapping as he turned into a stream and disappeared from the gods' line of sight. This was a piece of news that shocked the gods. Those who came to hunt down the angel tribe were the elites of the Protoss. They were the god elite army under Bai Ning's command. This team was made up of upper gods. Half-step lord powerhouses were everywhere as well. Logically speaking, this elite army should have appeared on the main battlefield against the new era. They were the ones with the real killing power. For some reason, Bai Ning's message was to hunt down the angel tribe who had escaped the seal. Even if there were a few powerhouses among the angel tribe, There were 2 8-winged angels and 6 6-winged angels. The rest were ordinary angels, mainly 2-winged and 4-winged. Ordinary true gods would be able to surround and kill such angels. The high-level angels could be dealt with by a few lords at most. Sending the entire elite army was making a mountain out of a molehill. They did not understand, it was not just them. The other commanders were the same. Some thought that Bai Ning wanted to preserve his strength. Some thought that it was Bai Ning's scheme. Of course, some thought that Bai Ning had his own plans. All sorts of thoughts lingered in the manager's minds, but no one dared to question Bai Ning. The elite army was sent to hunt down the angel tribe just like that. Coincidentally, one of the people who had just chased after the lone angel was an elite of this elite army. A lord. He had been a half-step lord not long ago. For some reason, he had broken through the shackles that he had been unable to break through. Given his level, he could have been a commander. He would have been a deputy at least. Alas, the order had come in a hurry. Before he could say anything, he was sent here. He had been thinking of waiting for the angel tribe's mission to end. He would be able to ascend. Luck was on his side. He met an angel as soon as he set out. It was the angel from before. His realm was comparable to that of a 6-winged angel. After an hour, he still couldn't catch him. What the hell? Did I encounter a 6-winged angel? The other angels were a piece of cake for him, but the ones with 6 wings and above, but the possibility of that was too small. And just now, the speed of that angel, 8-winged? He clearly saw 2 wings. Heavens! The elite was dumbfounded. Fortunately, he wasn't the kind of guy who liked to hang himself on a tree. Since he couldn't catch up, he didn't force himself to chase after him. Instead, he turned around and left. Unbeknownst to them, in a forest beneath the elite's feet, F***CK, panting heavily, the angel leaned against the tree trunk and carefully organized his aura. He actually didn't run. He had only used an illusion to make the elites think that he had run away. He also seized the opportunity to hide underneath. Peeking through the gaps between the leaves, the angel saw the elite leave and heaved a sigh of relief. What the hell? The angel's words were exactly the same as the elite's. I actually encountered a Lord God? F***CK, a Lord God shouldn't be a commander-in-chief. What is he doing in the elite army? Fortunately, I'm smart. Otherwise, I would have been caught by him. The angel muttered to himself. After confirming that the elite had really left and wasn't playing hide-and-seek with him, he finally let his guard down. There was no other way. The elite had been playing hide-and-seek with him all the way. Really? Do you think I'm easy to bully? You gave me such a job. The angel couldn't help but pant and lose his temper. It's really strange. Where did most of the troops go? Why are so many people gone? Only the south side of the barrier was broken. If we want to go out, we can only go from the south. But there's a war in the south. I didn't hear that they left from the south. How did they all disappear? The angel rubbed his head and frowned deeply. He looked really anxious and wanted to meet up with the rest of the troops as soon as possible. It was no wonder. The outside world was full of God's pursuit. If he couldn't find the rest of the troops, it would be too dangerous. Rustle, suddenly, the sound of leaves colliding could be heard behind the angel. Brat, stop nagging. Wait for me to go back. Bro, are you an angel? A pair of quick-witted eyes appeared from the leaves. The angel, who thought that it was an elite that had chased after him, was stunned. Are you an angel? The person in the leaves asked again. Are you blind? Can't you see the wings on my back? What the F***CK, what the hell did I bump into? Why, you're an elite. If you have the guts, then capture me. Let's see who dies then. The angel couldn't be bothered to run anymore. He directly sat down and cursed. Haha, it's good that you're an angel. I didn't recognize you just now and didn't dare to recognize you. Bro, don't panic. Look. Not long later, the person in the leaves walked out. He looked like a teenager. What was shocking was that he actually had 4 wings on his back. I'm also an angel. What does your matter with the angel? The angel. The angel, who was in a fit of anger, was about to curse, but before long, he was startled and his face was filled with ecstasy. Ha ha ha, angel. Bro, aren't you the same? Why are you doing this? The teenager's eyes became more vigilant. No, I'm just too excited. You don't know, but the elite army is too ruthless. I ran all the way, wanting to meet up with the main army. But I was alone the whole way. Can you imagine how lonely and helpless I was? And I even had 2 wings. Now I see it. Of course I'm excited about you. That's true. You're pretty good too. Being able to run for so long with 2 wings is already very impressive. Many of the 4-winged angels' brothers, sisters, uncles, and aunts have all been captured. The youth repeated all the titles he could think of. All he lacked was a younger brother and sister. But for him to have 4 wings at such a young age, he was already a monster among the angel race. If he had a younger brother and sister with 4 wings, what kind of talent would that be? I'm just lucky. The angel scratched his head and smiled. Grandpa and Grandma said that luck is also a part of strength. The Angel King is very strong, but he lost to that bad guy Yale. If only his luck was a bit better. The teenager chattered on. The angel looked at him in confusion. Chapter 1973. How unlucky. After so much trouble, he finally found another angel. He did not expect him to be such a chatterbox. The lost angel felt that his ears were going to get calluses from all the talking. That youngster was still talking to himself, not caring if others liked it or not. He could not suppress his anger. The lost angel scolded the youngster. The youngster was stunned. A faint mist appeared in her bright eyes. Who am I? Where am I? Why am I being scolded for no reason? The wings of the angel race determined their status. Why was he being scolded by a 2-winged? Why was he so fierce? Especially when he was scolding, the scar on his face squirmed, making him look even fiercer. The lost angel was also stunned for a moment. What did he say just now? This youngster was an important way to bring him to the base. Ask him to stay. He had to ask him to stay. Little brat. Who are you calling a little brat? You're a 2-winged. The youngster stared at him. You're a 2-winged and you dare to call me a 4-winged. You're amazing. Since you're so amazing, good luck. Hey, don't. The angel hurriedly reached out to stop the youngster. That was unintentional. I was chased by the god from the outer realm and was very tense. All I wanted was to quickly meet up with the base. I was too anxious and lost control of my emotions. Heh! The youngster sneered. I'm telling the truth. The lost angel tried his best to show his sincerity. That sincerity seemed to have infected the angelic youngster. Then I'll be magnanimous and let you go. I know I spoke too much, but there's nothing I can do about it. I don't have a chance to speak within the race. I can only say a little more now. If you want to go back, then, don't find me annoying, understand? This little brat, the lost angel, was so angry that he wanted to strangle this little angel. Threaten him. If not for the fact that he needed to use this little angel to meet up with the angel race. Understood. Although that was what he thought, the lost angel still nodded and smiled apologetically. He had no choice. He didn't know where the base of the angel race was. It's good that you understand. Follow me closely, I still have many stories to tell you. With that, the young man walked to the front and said to himself, a long, long time ago, in the depths of the forest. In this deep mountain forest with a radius of 1,000,000 kilometers, it was shrouded by ancient trees. There was a small space under the countless interweaving leaves. This space was obviously artificially developed. Because the trees at the top were too lush, there was no light coming in from the outside. Therefore, around this space there were many gems that glowed on their own. Use it as a light source. The ones shuttling through this space were the races with wings on their back. That's right. They were the angel clan that had escaped from the seal and were hiding here to avoid being hunted down by the extraterritorial gods. At this time, not even 1/10 of the previously mighty angel clan army remained. Most of them were scattered by the outer domain god race's elite troops in the process of escaping. This was all that was left behind. I wonder how the other clansmen are faring. The 8-winged old woman sat cross-legged on the ground, her turbid eyes filled with worry. Before the Angel King died, he had handed over the Angel clan to her and her husband. Before they could complete the Angel King's last wish and go to the new era, they were sealed by Yale. Finally, they could leave the seal, but many of their clansmen were lost. Angel King, this old woman has failed to live up to the high hopes you gave me. All right. While the old woman was lamenting, the 8-winged old man patted her shoulder. They were husband and wife. If they were to talk about understanding, their tens of thousands of years of relationship had long since made them understand each other to the extreme. The old woman was such a person. She was willing to put all the blame on herself. But it was not her fault that her clansmen were separated. Indeed, during the encirclement, the 2 8-winged angels had sped up. But this speed was not something that the 2-winged angels could catch up to. Most of them had voluntarily gone to distract the elites of the outer domain god race. Moreover, after they found this place to settle down, they had already sent people out to search for other members of the angel clan. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. This is not your fault. I'm worried about those children. Many of the angels who got lost are about the same age as Little Six. They are all 2-winged angels and young. How could they be a match for those elites of the outer domain god race? The old woman's eyes were filled with tears, but then she suddenly narrowed them. Why didn't I see Little Six? The old man said softly. Noticing the change in the old woman's expression, he hurriedly comforted her. Little Six is talented and smart. He is already a peak 4-winged. Even if he encountered the elites of the outer domain god race, he could deal with them. Moreover, with his mischievous little brain, do you think he would be at a disadvantage? Do you think he would be at a disadvantage? All right. The old woman sighed helplessly. That one from the new era is also separated. When the time comes and we find our clansmen, what should we do? That Lord's strength is no weaker than ours. There will definitely be no danger. Moreover, I left some traces along the way. With that Lord's eyesight, he will definitely be able to find us. We don't have to worry about this, the old man said. Russell, this is the base camp of the angels. A refreshing voice rang out in the forest. The old man and the old woman turned their heads and saw the young angel leading the lost angel out of the forest. Grandpa, Grandma, I found my clansmen. The young man smiled and ran over. When the lost angel saw the 2 8-winged angels, his pupils involuntarily constricted. He really came. Listening to the young monk recite scriptures along the way was not in vain. The lost angel swore, at that time, he wanted to strangle the young monk to death at least 100 times. Fortunately, his persistence and patience were not in vain. He had come. He looked around and saw the shadows of many other angels moving about. Hey, don't just stand there. Go and find your brothers. This is where the angels will be stationed for the time being. We probably won't be moving again anytime soon. The lost angel nodded and left upon hearing this. When he left, the 2 8-winged angels stared at him. They felt that he was somewhat unfamiliar and somewhat familiar. Unfortunately, 2-winged angels were too common. Although there were not many angels, there were still quite a few of them. It was very difficult for the 8-winged angels to remember their clansmen clearly. Little Six, where did you find this person? Grandpa, don't ask about this. There's something wrong with this fellow. The young angel behaved abnormally. He did not look childish when facing the lost angel. Instead, he exuded wisdom. Chapter 1974. Finally, he met up with the angel tribe. The scarred angel was the lost angel. Under the guidance of the young angel, he entered the depths of the forest. Here, everywhere were the busy shadows of the angels. Many of the angels were wrapped in bandages. Their eyes were filled with hatred as they were being healed by their own kind. Humph, these dogs of Yale, wait till I'm healed. The intermittent pause was the pause when he pulled on his injury. Almost. The scarred angel only needed to take a few steps to hear similar words. Just like him. These angels were all injured by the elites of the god tribe. Many of their eyes were filled with tears, but most of them were filled with unconcealable rage. Most of them had witnessed their own kind being captured or taken away. Tsk, these pitiful worms. The scar-faced angel shook his head with pity in his eyes. From his expression, it could be seen that he was definitely not an angel. His current angelic appearance was an illusion. The two-winged angel in front. Just as the scarred angel was feeling pity for the injured, a shout came from behind him. The scarred angel's attention was not here, so he did not hear the shout. Immediately, bang! His face was kicked in the leg. Mother***, which idiot is it? Turning around, the scarred angel saw the six-winged angel looking at him with a frown. Six-winged? What the heck? Who dared to kick him? What's the matter? Are you deaf? You won't answer if I call you? The six-winged angel snorted. Hurry up, there are still injured people that need treatment. You don't look like you're injured. Don't play tricks here, go and work. While speaking, the six-winged angel kicked the scarred angel again. I'm you, The six-winged angel frowned. What are you waiting for? What, do you want to spar with me? After a long time, the scarred angel's knuckles cracked under his sleeves. Looking at his expression, he really had the desire to attack the six-winged angel. In an instant. I don't dare, I'll go and help. The scarred angel slowly loosened his fist. Taking a deep breath, he turned around to help. Little bastard, you have quite a temper. Pa. The seraph slapped the back of Scarface's head again. Endure. You have to bear with it. Scarface didn't even turn around. He was afraid that if he turned around, the six-winged seraphim would see his hideous face. He was also afraid of himself. If he saw that six-winged angel again, he would immediately attack. If he made a move, all of his efforts would be in vain, and his plan would fail. As the saying went, take a step back and you'll see the world. I'll endure it. It just so happened that the place he was going to had more angels, so it would be easier for him to complete his plan. He gritted his teeth and left. When the six-winged seraphim saw him leave, his brows furrowed even deeper. He muttered to himself before suddenly disappearing. At the entrance of the forest, you can't hold back any more? The eight-winged old seraph woman frowned. Beside her was the six-winged seraph who had attacked Scarface earlier. Yes, I purposely attacked him twice. That scar-faced angel wanted to resist, but for some reason, he let go in the end. How strong is he? The old woman asked. The six-winged seraph thought for a moment before saying, this subordinate doesn't know. Although he is very angry, he doesn't have any energy to vent. The only thing this subordinate can confirm is that he isn't someone of my race. That's for sure. The old woman nodded with certainty. She understood her grandson the best. He was a famous little monk of the angel race. Nagging, no one in the entire angel race could last more than an hour. When Little Six came back, she told her that the scar-faced man could actually listen to her for 4 hours without losing his cool. Such a person. Either he wasn't listening seriously, but even if he wasn't, with such a little monk nagging beside his ear, he would definitely be upset. There was another possibility, that he had a scheme. As long as he had a goal, he would only be able to endure until it was achieved. Therefore, she sent her subordinates to probe. In the end, he endured. Keep an eye on that angel. Report any movements immediately. Yes. Time flew by like a white steed passing through a crack. It was worth mentioning that the Scarface angel, who had always been the focus of the angel race, did not do anything in the past few days. He was obediently working as a medic. At most, he would occasionally stare at the other angels with shifty eyes. Shifty eyes, this was how the six-winged seraph described him. "Two elders, we can't wait any longer." A six-winged seraph of the angel race looked at the two eight-winged seraphs in front of him with a grave expression. Recently, the elite army has been inspecting this place more and more tightly. It is no longer safe here. If the elite army discovers that something is wrong here and the main army arrives, we will be exterminated. But there are still children who haven't returned, the old woman said. It has been 3 days and we still haven't found them. Do you think they are still alive? Are they still free? The six-winged seraph said. The angel race had been stationed in the forest for 3 days. Almost all the missing angels had been found. Those who did not return, most of them had perished. This forest was definitely not a secret place. Recently, the elite deities had been investigating more and more of this place. The angel race could not wait any longer. The old woman's rationality warned her in her heart, she still could not let go of those children. Elder, the extraterritorial race's recent counterattack against Ji Yuan is very powerful. This subordinate believes that Ji Yuan urgently needs our strength. The Angel King's last words were for us to assist Ji Yuan. Now is the time for us to act. Kill those lackeys of Yale and avenge our fallen heroes. This is to avenge the fallen heroes of our angel race. The angels below echoed. The old woman and the old man showed hesitation in their eyes. Venerable numinous treasure hasn't. The angels below echoed. Ji Yuan's celestial lord and the angel king are on good terms. It doesn't matter if the venerable of numinous treasure comes or not. Star Lord Epoch is on good terms with the king of angels. As long as we explain it to him, he will naturally believe us. Perhaps venerable numinous treasure has already returned to the celestial lord's side. The six-winged seraph's eyes were filled with urgency. Elder, we can't wait any longer. Hey kid, you're quite interesting. Why can't we wait any longer? At this moment, Scarface, who had been very quiet all this while, walked out. His gaze made the six-winged seraphim feel uncomfortable. When I came, Ji Yuan was fighting well. Why do you sound like he is about to lose? Shut up, you outsider. As soon as he finished speaking, the Scarface seraph was suddenly sealed. He glared at the old man and the old woman. They were the ones who had set up this seal. Chapter 1975. They couldn't wait any longer. Actually, even without the six-winged angel's consolation, the two eight-winged angels had the same thought. In terms of realm, the two of them were the strongest in the angel race. Their perception was naturally the sharpest. This deep forest might not be safe anymore. Recently, the elite army had been exploring this area more and more frequently. From time to time, they could also sense the divine senses from above. If not for the old woman and the old man's presence, the Outerium celestial race had long known about this place. Between the six-winged angel and the scarred angel, the old woman and the old man naturally believed the six-winged angel's words. Not to mention that the scarred angel had long been suspected. The six-winged angel was a high-ranking member of the angel race. He had worked with the eight-winged angel and the old woman for a long time. More importantly, the one who had spoken was their disciple. As such, they were naturally more inclined towards the six-winged angel, and the scarred angel was naturally the instigator. Hey, why did you seal me? The trapped scarred angel glared angrily. The old woman and the old man only glanced at him indifferently. Then, the old man began to gather the other angels, preparing to leave for the main battlefield between the Outerium celestial race and the new era. The old woman sighed and shook her head. We've seen through your disguise long ago. You don't have to keep up the act. Me? The scarred angel widened his eyes, speechless. Ever since you came here, the Outerium celestial race has been investigating this place more and more. If I'm not mistaken, you're actually a member of the elite army. You disguised yourself as an angel and infiltrated our ranks to provide information to the Outerium celestial race. You just said that again. If that's the case, I'm afraid you want us to stay here longer so that your main force can rush over. Old man, humph, are you curious why you were noticed? Hey. You, shut up, yells lackey. I'm the venerable of numinous treasure. Are you muddle-headed? That six-winged angel is someone Yale has won over. You've all been tricked by this kid. The scarred angel roared. For a moment the old woman, the old man, the six-winged angel, and the other angel experts were stunned. Sensing the change in their gazes, the six-winged angel snorted. Such a lie. What a joke. You say you are the venerable of Lingbao, but what proof do you have? Since you can transform into our angel clan, you can also transform into his appearance. Little brat, you really know how to quibble. Shut up, you filthy fellow. The venerable of Lingbao is a mighty figure of this era. Nobody has ever spoken like you in our angel tribe for a long time. How dare you say that you're not a fake? As soon as he finished speaking, the six-winged angel cupped his fist and looked at the old man. Elder, we can't delay any longer. This thief is stalling for time. As expected, using his divine sense, he could see that a large number of extraterritorial elite troops had started to gather here. Old woman, we're leaving. Be careful. As he spoke, the angel tribe members soared into the sky. Countless white wings of the angel race converged into a long white river. When the extraterritorial gods saw this, they chased after them. The old man did this to ensure the safety of the old woman and the other angels who were unable to participate in the battle. This was why he appeared in such a conspicuous manner. You two old farts are really muddle-headed. Scarface sighed in despair. The old woman snorted in disdain. She didn't take Scarface's words to heart at all. To her, it was quite laughable. What was the point of struggling after being seen through? Old fart, are you really muddle-headed? That six-winged angel was won over by Yale. Why don't you believe me? The venerable of Lingbao is even stronger than us husband and wife. I didn't seal your power. If you really are the venerable of Lingbao, break the seal yourself. When that happens, I will naturally believe you. The old woman whispered and left. When the other members of the angel tribe left for the battlefield, she had to take care of them. It'll be too late by then. Scarface was panicking. When he realized that the old woman didn't have the slightest intention of believing him, he stopped wasting his breath and focused on controlling his power to break the seal. Half an hour, one had to admit that the angel tribe's sealing technique was very advanced. Scarface struggled for so long but still couldn't break the seal. Just then, the angel tribe is inside. Capture them alive. A large number of extraterritorial celestials suddenly appeared in the forest. The old woman rushed out when she heard the order. When she saw these celestials, the anger in her eyes reached its peak. You, the old woman pointed at Scarface. The ones left here are all injured, old and weak. Can't you just let them go? Is your heart made of stone? Scarface felt wronged. I wanted to spare your life. Now die. The old woman angrily shouted as she charged towards Scarface. Scarface, who was sealed, should have wanted to explain, but from the looks of it, he was unable to. Brothers, save me. I'm the spy that Lord Yale left here. I'm the one who's been contacting you and giving you the information. I am Lord Yale's trusted follower. If I die, none of you will be able to live. The other extraterritorial celestials looked at Scarface. Lord, save him. Up until now, someone from the Angel clan has been sending messages to us. It should be him. The supervisor of the extraterritorial god elite army nodded. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. The extraterritorial god instantly appeared behind Scarface, grabbed his shoulder and dragged him away from the old woman. Brother, be gentle, it hurts a little. Scarface laughed, and the god who was grabbing him was thrown to the side. He rushed to the front to fight with the old woman. 8-winged angels, over-gods and above, were almost as strong as god-kings. If they were ordinary elite soldiers, they would not be able to pose any threat to the old woman. But this time, there were actually 6 sovereigns. Who could say that there were no informants when they saw this? If there were no informants, how could 6 over-gods come here at the same time? It must be understood that the elite armies didn't have any sovereigns. Only by deploying them in advance would 6 sovereigns simultaneously appear in this scene. It really is you. Damn, it's me, you old fool. Scarface was about to die from anger. He didn't bother to explain and nodded in agreement. I'm working for Lord Yale. So what? You're not convinced? You have no choice but to accept it. After this battle, you will. He was taken hostage. As soon as he finished speaking, Scarface smiled apologetically at the manager beside him. My lord, can you help this subordinate remove the seal? This old witch is quite powerful, and it just so happens that I have some abilities as well. I might be able to help you. Chapter 1976. Whoosh, a cold wind that was so cold that it made people shiver suddenly appeared in the forest. It was as if there were some wind caves in the forest. The moment it appeared, from the depths of the forest, the wailing of the wind rang incessantly. They saw the 8-winged old woman spread her wings. The howling wind was also caused by the flapping of her wings. The gale directly condensed into wind blades, cutting the surrounding trees in half. With just you, the old woman was furious. With her 8 wings spread, her back released a holy white light. Every flap of her wings brought with it a power that could shatter heaven and earth. You want to take the children away? Dream on. Boom, the gale suddenly increased. After the appearance of the howling wind, the gods who were entangled by the old woman could not even take half a step forward. Even the lords could not break through for a while. This was an 8-winged angel, a peerless expert comparable to a god-king. For billions of years, the number of angel experts above the 8-winged angel level could be counted on 2 hands. In this era, 2 8-winged angels and 1 angel king. If not for Yale's appearance, or if not for Yale's ambition, this era would be their golden age for the angel race. Who would have thought, the angel king died to avenge the god emperor. The angel race, which once had a special status among the gods, was like a rat on the street, surrounded and suppressed by the entire god race. They gave up the homeland that they had lived in for billions of years. Even running to this dark forest in the deep mountains, they still could not escape the god race's encirclement. Don't want to kill more for the sake of the people. You asked for it. Whoosh, the afterimage flashed and disappeared. The lords who attacked the 8-winged old woman could only feel a gust of wind passing through them. They could not sense anything else. When they came to their senses, there was already a palm print on their chests. A bloody palm print. Their shoulders, arms, everywhere that could be seen with the naked eye was bloody. The surrounding trees all collapsed, the afterimage stopped, and the old woman's hands and wings were drenched in blood. The god race who seemed to be in charge was stunned for a moment. Judging from his appearance, he did not expect the 8-winged angel's power to reach this level. One should know, all of these sovereigns had fought against the angel clan before. None of the 6-winged angels could last more than 100 moves against them. It was just an extra pair of wings. How could his strength increase by so much? Steward, hurry up and break my seal. You've seen it for yourself. Don't think that this dotard's brain isn't working, but his methods are very vicious. Break this subordinate seal, and this subordinate will be able to contribute as well. Scarface was very frantic. It was as though he had seen that the sovereigns were unable to defeat the angel kings. You, my lord, don't hesitate. I don't have any other intentions, I just want to live. If you lose, I'll die here with you. Why don't you send me to a safe place? As long as I'm safe, it won't be a problem even if I don't break the seal. How is that possible? The manager snorted angrily. Their goal in coming here was to capture the 8-winged seraphim. As long as he could capture her, she and another 8-winged angel were husband and wife. If they used her as a hostage, the 8-winged angel would definitely not sit idly by. If he could defeat both 8-wingers, the angel race was nothing to worry about. Since you can't send me away, then what are you waiting for? If you don't break the seal, you want me to stay here and be a burden to you? Scarface snorted angrily. What can a 2-winged angel do? I think there's something wrong with your brain. I was sent here to be a spy. How could I possibly be a 2-winged angel? I'm a spy. I'm here to give you information. I'm here to fight with the entire angel race. This is just my fake body, an illusion. Scarface scolded angrily. Hearing this, the manager's eyebrows furrowed. It wasn't that he was hesitating. Rather, he was a little angry at the Scarface angel's words. What, you want to kill me? I serve Lord Yale. If you dare touch me, you and your family won't have a good time. Scarface's face was filled with arrogance. Besides, if I break the seal, you'll be nothing. Creak. The manager clenched his fists tightly. Scarface was still fearless. He lifted his chin and looked at the manager with his triangular eyes. After this battle is over, we'll settle it. Don't talk nonsense. Break the seal. It was easy to break the angel race's seal from the outside, but it was extremely difficult to break it from the inside. The manager frowned and lightly tapped Scarface a few times. During this period, the 8-winged angel had finished off all the Lord gods. You must die, the 8-winged old lady's afterimage flashed, but this time, it wasn't as smooth as before. Look at you. Behave. You won't live for long. The 8-winged old lady's surroundings were actually sealed by a thin layer of net. The net had completely bound her wings, and she couldn't move at all. Looking at the net cable, it was the manager's hand. There was an aquamarine artifact on his arm. It was all thanks to this artifact that he was able to seal the old lady. You too, she looked at Scarface indifferently and gave him a hard kick. Scarface's seal had already been broken by the manager. After breaking the seal, the manager looked at the 8-winged old lady and snorted at Scarface. Once we're done with this, there must be a conclusion between us. Even if you're Lord Yale's man, you can't insult me like this. My lord, at this moment the Lord gods, who were already heavily injured by the old lady, exclaimed. The manager frowned and immediately felt a chill on his back. He instantly reacted, but he was still one step too late. I don't have time to wait for you. When that time comes... His hand went straight through the manager's chest. With a forceful tug, the manager's heart was directly pulled out, beating vigorously in the scar-faced angel's hand. The manager's face was filled with shock. He couldn't understand why this angel who worked for Lord Yale would attack him. I'm also working for Lord Yale after all. Was it because of what he said earlier? Was he the kind of person who didn't care about the consequences and didn't want to leave any trouble for himself? He was wronged. The conclusion he was talking about was definitely not life or death. They were both working for Lord Yale, and he only needed Lord Yale's judgment. Why did he go in peace? He suddenly crushed the heart, and the scar-faced angel punched the manager's forehead. The Protoss were different from other races. Their high level was reflected in the fact that the shattering of their divine spark was true death. As for others, they could be reborn. The fact that the scar-faced angel shattered the manager's forehead meant that. Chapter 1977. Little bastard, you still want to settle the score with me? The fragments of the godhead fell from the scar-faced angel's fingertips like fluorescent powder. The scar-faced angel narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at the steward with reluctance. His vision gradually turned black and he fell to the ground. It's over. The moment the godhead shattered, everything about him was drawn to an end. The other chief gods who came to encircle the scar-faced angel stared at the demon-like scar-faced angel. There was a green gem in their hands. If there were no surprises, this should be the communication tool of the Outer Realm Protoss. Hey, cuties, have you finished reporting to your superior? The scar-faced angel's whisper appeared in the ears of the chief gods like a ghost. The appearance of an angel, the behavior of a demon. We're all working for Lord Yale. Brother, can you let us go? When we get back, we won't tell Lord Yale about your actions. If we don't, no one will know. The chief gods were still calm. Even if they had witnessed a bloody scene that made people want to vomit, they could still make themselves look normal and not show any extra emotions. This was also for the sake of their lives. They were already seriously injured in the battle with the eight-winged angel. Facing the scar-faced angel who could kill the steward effortlessly, they had no way of fighting back. So you're saying that the steward died for nothing? Yes. The chief god nodded. He asked for it. If his actions hadn't angered you, I believe you wouldn't have done anything to him. No, you didn't do anything to him. He died in this encirclement. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. The scar-faced angel laughed wildly, his eyes and face full of playfulness. He touched the chief god's head with his palm. You're really smart, little guy. I can't bear to do anything to you. But it's a pity that you think you're smart. I hate it. The smile on the Lord God's face suddenly froze. Then, his face aged countless times in an instant, and his smooth skin instantly became like a withered tree or a leaf. This was the loss of life force, and his life force had all drilled into the scar-faced angel's hand. I wanted to kill that guy from the beginning. What do you mean by angering me? Oh yes, it's also related to angering me. Also, I need you to report to your superiors. If you don't, I'll be really sad. He squeezed hard. The chief god's divine spark shattered. The scar-faced angel didn't look at the guy whose eyes were filled with confusion and unwillingness even at the moment of his death. He walked up to the Lord God, whose cell phone had a green gem that he could communicate with. Was the communication successful? The sovereign who held the green gem threw it to the ground and ran away like a madman. Why are you running? Go and reunite with your brothers. An energy cannon blasted into the back of the fleeing Master God, and the eyes of the remaining Master Gods were filled with terror. Hey, do you guys know how to use this gem? The sovereigns trembled as they explained how to use the gems, and then looked expectantly at the scarred angel. They wanted to live. It's all thanks to you guys for using it like this. You guys should go and reunite with them. Just like that, the army of gods formed by the main gods was annihilated. The scar-faced angel also held the green gem and sent a message to an unknown superior. He told them everything truthfully. The angel who contacted them killed all of them. After doing all this, the scar-faced angel casually threw the green gem to the ground and sighed as he walked up to the old woman. You're a demon. The sealed old woman's eyes were filled with rage. I've always treated my enemies like this. Being soft-hearted towards them is being irresponsible, the scar-faced angel said disdainfully. You should be grateful to me. If it wasn't for me, your clansmen would have already become their slaves. Heh, the old woman sneered. No way, do you still think I'm that traitor? Old fool, look at who I am. The scar-faced angel was speechless, and then he transformed into the sovereign of numinous treasure. Enough, stop pretending. The sovereign of numinous treasure was completely speechless. He had already transformed into his original form, but the old woman still suspected him. Could it be that he was really muddle-headed when he grew old? The sovereign of numinous treasure could not be bothered to argue with her. All he could do was explain. He wasted an entire hour. You're really the sovereign of numinous treasure? The old woman's eyes were filled with shock. She did not expect the scar-faced angel to be the sovereign of numinous treasure's transformation. If he was the sovereign of numinous treasure, didn't that mean, is there really something wrong with Yahweh? Yahweh? The sovereign of numinous treasure was not familiar with the name of the angel clan. Are you talking about that six-winged angel? Yes, he's definitely been won over by Yale. The sovereign of numinous treasure said with certainty, based on my observations during this period, he's the most suspicious. But I'm sure that he's not the only one who's been won over by Yale. I only said that because I sensed that something was wrong. But you too, you gave it to me directly. All right. Fortunately, I'm smart enough to let that idiot steward break my seal. Otherwise, I'd have to die together with you, old lady. The Venerable of Lingbao said, Our main problem is that we need to catch up with them as soon as possible. The old woman was silent again. Looking at her eyes, the sovereign of numinous treasure knew that she could not let go of those injured angels. Old man, I have to tell you, it's no longer safe here. Now that these few gods are dead, there will definitely be other gods coming over. Even if I pretend to be an angel in the end and cause a rift between Yale and that six-winged angel, it won't affect your situation here. The old woman was very hesitant. How could she not understand this principle? Forget it. Seeing that the old woman was in a difficult position, the sovereign of numinous treasure did not want to force her to make a decision. Then you stay here. I'll go find them myself. With that, the sovereign of numinous treasure took out 6 divine stones and threw them on the ground. These divine stones were the life essences of the 6 over-god. This barrier can at least withstand attacks from those below the God-King level. This is all I can do for you. As for the rest, good luck. I thank you on behalf of the children, no need. Without another word, the sovereign of numinous treasure turned and left. As for him, the life and death of the angel clan had nothing to do with him. His heart was still more focused on Jiyuan. Now, the 6-winged angel was leading the angels to the main battlefield. He had to hurry and ruin their plot. Sovereign. Right at this moment, the old woman suddenly spoke. Yehweh he. Chapter 1978. His unquestionable answer made the old woman's hands tremble. Yehweh. He'd once been her proudest disciple. Of all her disciples, he was the only one who'd broken through his shackles and become a 6-winged angel. The way they treated him. The old woman and the elder practically treated him like their own son. If there was anyone in the angel clan who was the closest to them and the one they trusted the most, after their children had died in battle. After Lil 6, he was next. Originally, they'd wanted Yehweh to take care of Lil 6 on their behalf. Who would have guessed he'd choose to side with Yale? In truth, the old woman already knew the answer before she even asked. Yehweh. How could he possibly let him go? No matter what he'd done, whether or not he'd already affected the war between the Era and the Outsiders. Just based on his betrayal, he was no longer worthy of being a holy angel. She'd ask. Perhaps he was just reluctant to part with him. Let him die a quick death. Don't torture him. This child suffered so much when he was young. All right. The Venerable of numinous treasure nodded. He had no reason to torture the 6-winged angel. Take care. With that, the Venerable of numinous treasure drew a gate of primordial chaos in the sky. Going through this gate would save them a lot of time. He hadn't taken the angels with him because the gate wasn't stable. The gate. He'd drawn it with the power of primordial chaos. Being able to manipulate primordial chaos was already a sign of becoming one with heaven and earth. All the Venerable of numinous treasure could do was let him through. It was still too early to be careful. If anything were to go wrong, even he would be buried inside. In other words, this was a dangerous shortcut. He didn't need to use this method to get to the battlefield, but he'd wasted so much time. If he wanted to catch up to the angels, this was the only way. Outside the God Race's barrier, following Yi Zichen's orders, the Era's soldiers returned to the outside world. This sort of decision. Never mind Emperor Hades, even the other emperors were baffled. Although the outsiders had launched a counterattack, that didn't mean they couldn't defeat them. Just because they'd shown the slightest sign of weakness, they'd retreated. They'd ruined all their previous efforts. This sort of decision was even more demoralizing than losing a battle. That was indeed the case. Many epic warriors frowned, puzzled by their superior's decision. In his heart, he felt that his superior was too weak, and he was holding back his anger. What was worth mentioning was the Outerium God Race's barrier. This barrier actually had the ability to heal itself. After the God-powered cannons stopped firing, the broken parts of the cannons began to heal up. If this situation continued in less than half a day, the broken barrier would be completely healed, which meant that all the efforts of the previous era would be in vain. Emperor Star, shouldn't you give us an explanation? The Emperor Star, Yi Zichen, sat in the very center of the tent. The 4 auxiliary stars stood beside him. Under his hands, they were lined up in sequence. They were all Emperor Lords of the Fiend God race. At that moment, the one frowning in front of Yi Zichen's desk was Great Emperor Bian of the 4-Direction Palace. He was the one who could not understand this retreat. The Protoss counterattack was not wrong. But everyone who had personally participated in it knew that it was the God race's final counterattack. As long as they could withstand this counterattack, attacking the Outerium God race wouldn't be difficult at all. The God race's counterattack was very fierce, but it wasn't as if Ji Yuan couldn't stop them. In particular, the elites of the 4-Direction Palace he commanded weren't at a disadvantage in the slightest. No matter how he looked at it, this was their best chance. Retreat. The order he'd received was to retreat. They could have easily crushed the God race to death, so why did they have to let him go with his last breath? Bian didn't obey. He led the 4-Direction Palace to fight to the death. Only when the 4 auxiliary stars personally captured him did the 4-Directions Palace retreat from the God race. Even so, the 4-Direction Palace's losses were disastrous. Great Emperor Bian, although you're on good terms with the Emperor Star, that's no reason for you to yell at me. Yin Shang stepped forward, his majestic aura instantly enveloping the entire tent. We didn't capture you so that you could treat the Emperor Star with disrespect. This is disrespectful. Yin Shang. Yi Zichen shook his head, indicating that he shouldn't speak too harshly. Then he took a deep breath and looked at Bian, who still wore an expression of unwillingness. I told you to retreat, so why didn't you? Why should I retreat? The God race is already at the end of their rope. Their counterattack is their final struggle. What's the point of that? If you retreat now, you'll damage our morale and give the God race a chance to catch their breath. Shouted Bian. That's why you disobeyed orders and let 100,000 4-Direction Palace soldiers die. This is the result you've given me? Said Yi Zichen coldly. Bian was speechless. He couldn't deny that he'd been too impulsive this time. Even after everyone else had obeyed and retreated, he'd refused to retreat. As a result, his 4-Direction Palace had been surrounded by the gods. If the 4 auxiliary stars hadn't appeared at the same time, the 4-Direction Palace might have been gone. You disobeyed orders and caused the era to lose 100,000 elite. Even if you're one of your own, I still have to condemn you. Do you have any complaints? Asked Yi Zichen. No. Impulsive was impulsive. Bian knew very well that when the era's survival was at stake, he had to obey orders. Military orders were absolute. As for him, even a great emperor had once been a major power to Yi Zichen. Now Yi Zichen was the era's commander. He had to obey. More importantly, he'd caused 100,000 4-Direction Palace elites to die needlessly. He needed to calm down. That's good. Yi Zichen nodded. From today onwards, the 17th Highness will assume command of the 4-Direction Palace. Emperor Bian, return to the era and await further orders. The era. Bian didn't understand. He was a great emperor. Even if he wasn't the commander, he'd still be of great use if he stayed. Send him directly back to the era. I told you to go back, so go back. For some reason, the demon emperor smiled at him. Emperor Bian furrowed his brows in thought. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Your subordinate. Understood. Emperor Bian accepted the order in confusion. Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and smiled, then said, Wait here for a moment. Wait here for a moment, I'll follow. Heh, you really can't resist nagging. You just said you'd come. At that moment, a figure suddenly appeared outside the tent. The angels didn't come? It was the sovereign of numinous treasure. He'd traveled through the primordial chaos and arrived in less than 15 minutes. Even so, he was still too slow. Chapter 1979. He hurried back from the venerable of Lingbao. Ever since he entered the tent, he had been talking to himself the entire time. The other great emperors in the tent were puzzled by his panicked expression. Some of them even had shock in their eyes. Why is he here? Didn't the news say that he was sealed in the angel race by Yale? Venerable One, the monstrous race great emperor, wanted to speak to him, but the venerable of numinous treasure was still immersed in his own world. It was as if he hadn't heard the monstrous race great emperor's words. He walked straight towards Emperor Star. Star-Lord, we have a huge problem to deal with. Great Emperor Bian Yi Zichen chuckled, then waved at Emperor Bian. You can follow the venerable of numinous treasure back to the new era. With that, Yi Zichen looked towards the Lord of numinous treasure. Bian Great Emperor needs to return to his era to reflect. Why don't you take him back? Their eyes met. From start to finish, Yi Zichen's eyes were filled with a faint smile. There was nothing special about it. The supremacy of numinous treasure looked at him for a long time. During this time, they did not communicate with each other using their spiritual sense. How could the Star Lord's life spirit treasure dare to disobey? Then you may leave. This subordinate will take his leave. The venerable of numinous treasure bowed slightly and left the tent. Naturally, the Bian Emperor followed closely behind. As soon as the two of them left the tent, they soared into the sky. Without any delay. Emperor Star, the venerable of numinous treasure, can be said to be the most familiar with the situation of the Protoss. The news we received was that he was sealed in the angel race by Yale. Aren't we going to ask about it? Yes, Star-Lord. The venerable of numinous treasure also said that there was trouble when he came. Do you want me to chase after the venerable of Lingbao and the others? After we get to the bottom of this. The great emperors in the tent expressed their opinions. From their point of view, there was nothing wrong with what they said. Even Yi Zichen felt that they were right. However, there was no need. The venerable of numinous treasure is tired. Let him return to the era to rest. But, Star Master, the trouble of the venerable of numinous treasure, aren't we always in a whirlpool of trouble? Yi Zichen smiled at everyone, then stood up. The other great emperors hurriedly rose to their feet, only to hear Yi Zichen speak. Everyone, take a good rest. Even if you want to rest soon, I won't approve any holidays for you. In the outer realm, the angel clan that was being chased by the elites of the extraterritorial godmen had actually appeared in the void of the extraterritorial domain. They had already left the god realm and appeared outside the barrier. Or perhaps, even if it was another era, they would still be able to see it clearly. Yehue, shouldn't we be going to the main battlefield between Era Yuan and the God Clan? Why did we leave the God Clan? The one who spoke was the 8-winged old man. He had asked the 6-winged seraphim more than once, but the answers he got were worthless excuses. At this time, Ji Yuan was right in front of them. He could no longer tolerate Yi Hui's prevarication. He needed a reasonable explanation. Not only that, they left the Outerium god race's enchantment without any obstruction. Such a large-scale migration of angels in the beginning, there were a few extraterritorial gods who tried to capture them, but they gave up after chasing them for a short while. After all, considering the speed of the 2-winged seraphim, they weren't all that fast. They hadn't reached a level where the gods couldn't catch up to them. And yet, under these circumstances, they'd managed to escape. This was too inconceivable. Too inconceivable. That's right. When the old man stopped, there were too many doubts in his heart. Grand Master. The 6-winged seraphim stopped in his track. He was the old woman's apprentice, and the old man was the old woman's husband, so there was no problem with the way he addressed them. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he also let the other angels take a break in the surroundings. When he saw the solemn look in the old man's eyes, Yi Hui's lips curled into an almost imperceptible smugness. Then he said solemnly, "You've already asked me this question the entire way, and I've explained it to you." Explain? You should know better than anyone whether that's an explanation or an excuse, said the old man. Grand Master, don't tell me you don't trust me? I trust you too much. Suddenly, the old man cried out. Even though he was in his twilight years, the old man did not seem old at all. The aura he exuded was enough to make people shudder. The wings on his back slowly flapped. He narrowed his eyes and stared into the six-winged seraphim's eyes. What did you say before you came out? And what did you say after you came out? Yi Hui, we watched you grow up. After little Six's parents died in battle, we treated you like our own son. We provided you with resources and the best environment for you. Is this how you repay us, repay the angel race? Grand Master, what are you talking about? The six-winged seraphim's eyes were filled with embarrassment, his face puzzled as he looked at the old man. You've misunderstood me. I brought you here to understand Ji Yuan's difficulties. When I was collecting information outside, Bai Ning was going to send the gods to attack Ji Yuan's lair so that they couldn't return home. After that, they would attack Ji Yuan from both sides. If Ji Yuan retreated, everything would be in vain. Only we. Yi Hui's expression was very sincere. Anyone who looked at him would subconsciously believe what he said. Even the eight-winged old man couldn't help but frown a little. There was no other way, he and the old woman trusted Yi Hui too much. His previous actions had caused the old man to feel suspicious, but the words he had just said, however, it erased most of the doubts in his heart. Is that so? Ji Yuan is going to be attacked by the Outer Realm God clan? Little did he know that at this moment, a beautiful figure suddenly appeared in the void outside the epoch. She had shoulder-length purple hair and a blood-red cloak on her back. She wore a tight-fitting leather shirt and pants, and rivet shoes. She was fashionable like a modern city girl. She even had a lollipop in her mouth. Beside her were hundreds of thousands of demon elites. Friend, didn't you say that the Outer Realm God clan is going to attack Ji Yuan? Why haven't we seen any Outer Realm God clan appear after waiting here for almost a week? Hey, you guys are the first batch. The old man's expression changed drastically. He turned his head and glared at Yi Hui. Yi Hui's face was still full of innocence, but the hand in her sleeve was secretly crushing a pink bottle. Chapter 1980. The Demon's Holy Maiden. She hadn't brought any of her clansmen with her when the Era Lord attacked the outsiders. In truth, given her relationship with Yi Zichen, or the very survival of the Era Lord, they were all in the same boat, so it was impossible for her to have a different opinion. Furthermore, the Demon's Holy Maiden still had Sun Yige in her soul. She'd always harbored feelings for Yi Zichen, but she didn't dare say them out loud. She hadn't come with him. Naturally, it was Yi Zichen's arrangement. This guy really is meticulous. The Demon's Holy Maiden gently wiped her lips, a mesmerizing smile spreading across her face. I'm getting used to this guy. What do you think? How about sharing him with your big sister? Huh, you don't want to? What a pity. If you're afraid others will steal him from you, you'll have to work hard for him. People like him never lack women. The Holy Maiden muttered to herself. Her clansmen pretended not to hear her. They all knew the Demon's Holy Maiden had two souls inside her, one of which was inextricably linked to the Era Lord of Star. Normally, the two of them communicated like this. From time to time, the Holy Maiden's other soul would take over. She was a gentle, polite girl. Although her status didn't quite match the Demon's Holy Maiden's, she was also deeply loved by the other demons. Yi Hui. As the Holy Maiden muttered to herself, the eight-winged elder glared at Yi Hui, unable to restrain his anger. In his palm there was even a glowing white brilliance. This was the holy power of the angel race. At this point, no matter how much the elder trusted Yi Hui, he knew he'd been tricked. "Grandmaster, what's wrong with me?" Yi Hui's eyes were still blank, but as he spoke, he crushed the bottle in his hand. The pink powder fell into the air, then turned transparent. Even the demons who'd noticed it right from the start couldn't figure out where the powder had gone after seeing him crush the bottle with their own eyes. All they could do was set up a barrier around them. They didn't want the powder to affect them. "Grandmaster, you're not doubting me again, are you? Do you know who they are? Do you believe their words? I'm your master's wife's disciple, yet you suspect me so many times?" "Shut up. Even if they're from the new era and the god race didn't attack, it's possible that we came faster and the god race is behind us. Isn't it a good thing that we were able to arrive here earlier? Why did you?" "Shut up. I told you to shut up, you bastard." A slap landed on Yi Hui's face. The holy light left a white palm print on Yi Hui's face. When the light landed on his face, it was slightly corrosive, causing his face to bleed a little. This slap was very painful. The strength of the eight-winged angel's furious attack could be imagined. Even though Yi Hui was a six-winger, the gap between him and an eight-winger was like heaven and earth. This slap, golden red blood flowed from his mouth and face, and he spat out a few teeth that had been knocked out. "Grandmaster, I'm not your grandmaster. You don't deserve to be our disciple." The old man's beard violently trembled in anger. Let alone his apprentice, even if he was his own son, the old man would still not show any mercy to the traitor of the Angel clan. He was different from the old woman. He had never been an indecisive person. Without any hesitation, he used his angelic power. But not long after, inexplicably, the old man's eyes were filled with anger. Blood slowly flowed from his crimson eyes. Not long after, he directly coughed up a mouthful of blood. "Grandmaster, I advise you not to be angry, and don't use your angelic power. The more angry you are, the more you use your angelic power, the faster the poison in your body will act up." Yi Hui licked the corner of his mouth that was dripping blood. He was still smiling with a sanctimonious look. Are you very confused? You have been very vigilant against me along the way. How did you get poisoned?" Yi Hui smiled proudly and flipped his hand to take out a jade bottle. This jade bottle was a medicinal pill that the old woman refined for the old man. Although the eight-winged angels were powerful, but they were old. The old ailments of their youth had come back at this time. Right now, the old man could only rely on these medicinal pills to slightly reduce the pain in his body. Yi Hui took out this jade bottle. He did not believe that the old woman would also betray the angels. "This is the medicinal pill that Grandmaster's wife gave you, right? In fact, if I wanted to kill someone, I could say that Grandmaster's wife also betrayed us. But I still have some humanity. In any case, you have taken care of me for so long. I will not deceive you like this. Actually, I changed the medicinal pill. From the moment we were sealed, your medicinal pill was the one I changed. You have been eating it for almost half a year." Yi Hui narrowed his eyes, revealing an evil smile. "This medicinal pill will slowly corrode your internal organs. After half a year, the medicinal effects will accumulate. You won't be able to live for long. Come, kill this traitor." The eight-winged old man only felt a sharp pain in his abdomen, and he couldn't help but spit out blood. But what was unexpected was that the other members of the angel tribe looked on with indifferent expressions. "You? Could it be that you?" "Grandmaster, they did not betray the angels. In fact, there are less than 10 people who have pledged allegiance to Lord Yale. Most of them were just bewitched. The current angels are no longer your angels, but my Yi Hui's angels." Yi Hui laughed wantonly. That smile only made the old man feel unfamiliar. He couldn't understand, why did Yi Hui become like this? In the past, Yi Hui was always so refined and polite. No matter who he treated, he would not show the slightest disdain or disgust. He treated the old woman and him like his own sons. Even now, he couldn't forget that when their children died in battle, Yi Hui was covered in blood, and there were so many wounds on his body that he couldn't look straight at them. He knelt in front of the old woman and the old man. He cried bitterly and said that he was useless and couldn't protect the old woman and the old man's son and daughter. In the future, he would replace the responsibility of his children and treat the old man and the old woman as his own parents. That was what Yi Hui said, and that was what he had always done. When Yale came to seal the angels, in order to save Little Six, he almost died in Yale's hands. Everything he did revealed some of his true feelings. It was not an act at all. If it was really an act, how could he and the old woman not see it? Why did he go to Yale at this time? The old man really didn't understand. Chapter 1981. The Void Beyond the Realm. There was no storm, no lightning, and no thunder. Only an old man in his twilight years remained. His body was hunched and his back was facing the light, making him look even more miserable. His life force was flowing away. The old man could clearly feel that he didn't have long to live. Why, inexplicable. That was for sure. The old man muttered to himself. Yi Hui shrugged and smiled. Who knows? Yi Hui, we watched you grow up. You're not that kind of child at all. Why, watched me grow up? Not that kind of child? Yi Hui tilted his head, as if thinking about the old man's words. It seems that you really did watch me grow up. But you said that I'm not that kind of child. How much do you know about me? Yi Hui let out a deep breath and looked up at the chaos in the void. He flapped his wings lightly, causing the wind to blow at his clothes. I'm an orphan. I was despised and bullied since I was young. My life was very dark. I thought many times that I should just let it go, that I would be free after death. Until you and Master appeared, my life changed. When he mentioned this, Yi Hui's eyes were filled with tears that didn't contain any hypocrisy. These words came from the bottom of his heart. He lived a miserable life when he was young, so miserable that he couldn't forget it for the rest of his life. The old man also knew. He and the old woman took Yi Hui in because they saw that he lived a pitiful life. Because of his amazing talent, they took him in as a disciple. Of course, no one knew that there was actually another reason why they took Yi Hui in. They didn't have any children at the time. No matter what the reason was, they were all Yi Hui's benefactors. If not for their appearance, Yi Hui might have died in a dark alley that no one knew about. Since they were benefactors, why would Yi Hui? You treated me very well and treated me like a child. Back then, I would sleep at night and wonder if this was all a dream. How could a person like me be so lucky? In order to make you guys happy, I trained with all my might. I was called a genius by the Angel Clan, but who knew how hard I worked? And I do all of this so that you can pay more attention to me, can smile and pat my head satisfactorily. Nod your head. Until Yellen is born. Your attitude towards me has changed in an instant. All of you only have that idiot Yellen in your eyes. I'm starting to wonder if he's really your son. The child of 2 8-winged angels will only be 4-winged when he reaches adulthood. What a waste of your genes. Yi Hui's face was full of sneers and disdain, and he was also gnashing his teeth. He took everything from me. You don't even look at me anymore. All you see is that idiot. No matter how hard I tried, you only had eyes for that idiot. But you forgot, you told me at that time, Little Hui, the future of the Yi clan depends on you. The funny thing is, I actually believed it. In the end you went back on your word, and Yellen became the clan leader of the Yi clan, didn't he? A bleak smile hung on Yi Hui's face. At this moment, the tears in his eyes had dried up. Perhaps to him, the only thing that moved him was that the old man and the old woman had given him a home. As for the rest, perhaps it was all hatred. Could it be that we did something wrong? Yi Hui, we gave you a new life. Yes, I don't deny that. I'm also grateful to you. Yi Hui nodded forcefully, and then his eyes turned ferocious. I blame you for giving me such a big dream. Do you know how important that dream was to me? Do you know that when you personally crushed it, the dream that I persisted in for tens of thousands of years was shattered? Do you know how desperate I was? You're too extreme, the old man said. Is this the reason for betraying the Angel Clan, or taking revenge on us? Of course not, Yi Hui smiled and shrugged. When I grew up, I actually got over it. I don't have the bloodline of the Yi clan. At that time, there were Yellen and Yellen, so it's understandable that I couldn't become the clan leader. What made me bitterly disappointed was what you said half a year ago. What? The old man asked. At that time, you said that after the crisis of the Angel Clan passes, you'll push me to become the Angel King. Yi Hui shrugged. I believe you again. We didn't lie to you this time. Stop lying. Yi Hui laughed loudly. It's true that you recommended me to become the Angel King, but wasn't it to buy time for Little Six? When he grows up, I'll abdicate. What kind of Angel King am I? You eavesdropped on my conversation with your master. Why? I can't? If I don't listen, I might be kept in the dark for a few hundred years? A few thousand years? The old man was speechless. He and the old woman did have such a plan. However, that was just a casual remark. Furthermore, Little Six was still too young. Furthermore, they had their own selfish motives for saying that back then. Little Six was a member of the Yi clan. If he became the Angel King, even if the two of them perished, no one would be able to shake the Yi clan's position. Not long after this thought appeared, they gave up on it. Little Six was too playful and was a young monk. He was unwilling to part with the Angel King. They felt that the best candidate was still Yi Hui. However, they didn't say it back then. Yi Hui only heard what they said, but he didn't know what they were thinking. And now it was useless even if they explained. Yi Hui already felt that he had been deceived. So you submitted to Yale, and Yale said that he wanted to promote you as the Angel King? That's right. Yi Hui nodded without any hesitation. Once upon a time, I thought that Yale was evil beyond redemption, a great devil. But thinking about it, he might be much better than you. At the very least, he did everything he said, unlike you, who used lies to weave a dream for your own goals. To use others. The old man smiled faintly. Did he do something wrong? If he thought about it carefully, he might really have done something wrong. Back then, he shouldn't have been benevolent and brought Yi Hui back to his clan. He shouldn't have imparted knowledge to him, allowing him to grow to his current state and then betray him and the entire angel race. Are you regretting saving me? At that moment, Yi Hui suddenly laughed, as though he could see through the eight-winged old man's thoughts. His eyes were filled with mockery. The old man didn't comment on this. There was nothing to hide. Regret was regret. Furthermore, he was about to die. What was the point of pretending? Then why don't I tell you something that will make you regret even more? Yi Hui narrowed his eyes and smiled faintly. Then, the mockery on his lips intensified. Chapter 1982. It was as if he had been looking forward to it for a long time. When Yi Hui told the truth, his entire expression became morbid. He stared into the old man's eyes. He laughed wantonly. You didn't expect this, did you? I killed both of them. I killed them with my own hands. Ha 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 ha, pft. The eight-winged seraphim vomited blood again. Yi Hui also laughed sinisterly with a particularly morbid expression. Actually, our angel tribe won that battle. On the way back, I sent a false report and let my people go to avoid fault. That's where Yi Lin and Yi Yu died. Ha ha, they're all dead. The injuries on my body were left by the members of the Angel Clan. In order to prevent the matter from being exposed, I killed them all. And Yelu, I pursued her for 300 years, but in the end, she found a mere two-winged. Didn't she still belong to me before she died? Boom! The eight-winged seraphim's aura instantly rose to its peak. He could tolerate everything else. His children were the only exception, as Yi Hui said, As long as the eight-winged seraphim used his angelic power, the poison in his body would act up faster. The blood in his mouth never stopped flowing. Even so, he still wanted Yi Hui to pay the price. "Do you really think I'm afraid of an old man like you?" Yi Hui's face was full of disdain as he waited confidently for the eight-winged seraphim to attack. He did not hide his strength. Given Yi Hui's personality, if he became an eight-winged seraphim, he would definitely not hold back and let the whole world know immediately. He liked the admiration in other people's eyes. He was so arrogant because he knew about the eight-winged seraphim's situation. That poison, after it acted up, the eight-winged seraphim's true strength would not be higher than the six-winged seraphim. He had nothing to fear. He looked forward to killing the seraphim with his own hand. It would not take much effort. He only needed, boom, just as Yi Hui was waiting for the eight-winged seraphim to die, his back suddenly suffered a heavy blow. The seraphim instinctively defended himself, but the impact still sent him flying thousands of miles away. The wings on his back were dripping with blood, and the blood-red feathers fell from his wings. "What are you talking about? Do you think we're here to watch a play?" Up in the sky, the holy maiden had a lollipop in her mouth. She stood in front of Yi Hui and looked at him with disdain. Beside her was a white-haired old man. He looked very unfamiliar. If one were to look closely, they would discover that this old man was the thunder-punishing emperor of the celestial race. He was no longer as burly as before. His entire body was as thin as a withered firewood. His eyes were turbid and lifeless, but the aura emanating from his body was still as terrifying as ever. The eight-winged old man was brought to the back by the other devil experts. Judging from their actions, they seemed to be checking what poison the old man had and preparing to detoxify it. "You. What about me? I've already given you a lot of face by letting you direct and act for almost an hour. To be honest, it was quite exciting at the beginning, but in the end, the only thing I was satisfied with was your orphan persona. You are indeed suitable." The holy maiden licked her lollipop with a smile. "You're seeking death. Freedom fighters of the angel tribe." Yi Hui threw his head back and howled. The angels now belonged to him completely. His every word and action would affect all the angels here. As long as he gave the order, the angels, HM? Yi Hui narrowed his eyes. He received no response. This was impossible. His medicinal powder. "By freedom fighters, are you referring to those people?" The holy maiden pointed at the angels, who were covered in lightning and lying in the sky. "My apologies. While you were acting, my subordinates were bored. I couldn't bear to interrupt you, so I played with those freedom fighters for a while. In the end, I discovered that they weren't as fun as I thought they would be." Heh! The thunder-punishing emperor next to the holy maiden laughed sinisterly. He dealt with those angels with the power of his tribulation lightning. It had been a piece of cake for him. He hadn't even used 40% of his power. "Actually, I wanted to watch your play for a while longer, but I have a rather soft-hearted young lady here who thinks you're rotten to the core, so she asked me to teach you a lesson. I don't know if you can understand, but older sisters like to bicker with younger sisters. You spoil them a lot. I had no choice but to kick you. I didn't hurt, did I?" said the holy maiden apologetically. "It seems I used a lot of strength," said the holy maiden. Are you looking to die?" Yi Hui roared. His wings stirred up a fierce gust of wind. The raging winds sent the holy maiden's lollipop flying. At the same time, her eyes flashed with confusion. "Yi Zichen only gave me 5. I traded them for my entire clan as watchdogs. They're even more important than my life." The holy maiden watched helplessly as her lollipop was blown away. She gnashed her teeth in despair. "Thunder-punishing emperor! Your subordinate is here. Kill him. No, I want him to suffer a fate worse than death. Get revenge for my lollipop." The holy maiden was about to go crazy. Of the 5 lollipops, this was the last one. She couldn't bear to keep it in her mouth, so all she could do was lick it every now and then. It was gone. It had been blown away. The thunder-punishing emperor laughed sinisterly. Then please, holy maiden, give me. I'll give you 3 days' worth. No problem. A sharp light flashed through the thunder-punishing emperor's eyes. Your subordinate will absolutely make him beg for death. Rumble. The outer realm's void turned dark in an instant. Raging lightning roared above the primordial chaos, like a wild beast that had been sealed away for a long time, just waiting to break free. Bloodline lightning beasts. In the blink of an eye, the lightning exploded. Countless lightning beasts gathered together. Their eyes brimmed with the bloodlust of wild beasts as they roared and charged Yi Hui. Petty tricks. Yi Hui sneered disdainfully. He naturally had a reason for his arrogance. As a peerless genius of the Angel Clan, there was no way he was mediocre for being crowned with such a title. Holy light purification. The holy light spread across the land. Wherever the holy light passed through, not a single blood lightning beast was spared. All of them were dispersed by the holy light. 1 week, shouted the holy maiden inexplicably. When the thunder-punishing emperor heard this, his beast trembled. Myriad lightning disaster. The thunder-punishing emperor didn't hold back at all. An incomparably dark, diamond-shaped gem appeared between his brows. This, a godhead. Yi Hui's head was the same. The golden gem above his head shone with dazzling light. Between heaven and earth. Chapter 1983. Surrender now. The thunder-punishing emperor's eyes were cold and gloomy. There was no longer any color in his world. There was only endless darkness, so deep that it could make one sink into it. Yi Hui was disdainful. The light under his feet was as bright as day, opposite the thunder-punishing emperor's darkness. At this moment, the entire outer realm was enveloped by their domains. It could be seen that the thunder-punishing emperor had become even more powerful than he had been in the divine race. Back then, he was only as strong as the other emperors. At most, he was a bit stronger. Now, even the Ocean Empress at her peak could only say that she was no match for the thunder-punishing emperor. Why was he like this? No one knew if it was because of the Holy Maiden of the Demons. If it was true, the Holy Maiden of the Demons was definitely stronger than the thunder-punishing emperor. But all she could see was her lollipop. As for the collision of darkness and light, she didn't even boom. It was deafening. The demon elites had retreated tens of thousands of meters before the collision. Even so, the collision between the thunder-punishing emperor and Yi Hui made their scalps go numb. Many demons were sitting on the ground in shock, watching as darkness and light collided, and the condensed energy atoms trembled uncontrollably. The Holy Maiden of the Demons, she didn't retreat. She wanted to mourn for her lollipop. Even though she couldn't get it back, she wanted to see it disappear completely. But this was the outer realm. There were no obstacles blocking their view. At their level, their field of vision was very wide. It would take too long for them to see it disappear. She didn't retreat and stayed in the center of the collision. That kind of terrifying energy impact, but none of the demons were worried about the situation of the Saintess. After a long time, until the energy released became slightly gentler, and the aftershock of the energy atom explosion was no longer as violent. Then they saw. Puff. The thunder-punishing emperor vomited blood and retreated. He stared at the top of Yi Hui's head. How is that possible? No matter how dark a place is, there's no place to hide from the light. Darkness can only be the shadow of light. Yi Hui stood proudly in the air. The white light behind him was so dazzling that no one could see his face clearly. However, the godhood above his head caused everyone to be terrified. 2. There were 2 godhoods above his head. This was also the reason why the thunder-punishing emperor was shocked. Someone could contain 2 godhoods. The lightning punishment emperor was well aware of the power contained in a godhead. This godhead had been bestowed upon him by the Holy Maiden of the demon race. He had paid a terrible price to condense this godhead. Torn meridians, a body that was about to burst. This was all because his body couldn't bear the power of a godhead. After all, he was the lightning emperor. Even a body forged by the power of lightning would be in such a state, let alone others. Right now, someone had condensed too. Could it be that the difference between an innate true god and a postnatal spirit-focused cultivator was so huge? The thunder-punishing emperor knew. He was defeated. How could Yi Hui, who had two godheads, be a match for him with just one godhead? He wasn't upset that he couldn't receive the Holy Maiden's reward. Two godhoods, his defeat was not unjust. He only wanted to know why he could condense two godheads without exploding. Shao Ting, step down. At that moment, the Holy Maiden appeared in the sky. Holy Maiden. Shao Ting bowed. Be careful, Holy Maiden. He's condensed two godheads. I saw it all. Step down. The Holy Maiden was expressionless. She wasn't shocked by Yi Hui's two godheads, nor was she angry about losing her lollipop. She was neither sad nor happy. It was like a person without emotions. When the demon race saw the saintess appear, a relaxed expression flashed across their faces. That little angel's in trouble. That's for sure. With the Holy Maiden here, do you think he'll live? Star-Lord Yi sure is smart. He left the Holy Maiden here to protect Ji Yuan. As long as she's here, even that dog's hit Divine Emperor Yale won't be able to do anything. The demons had different opinions. The eight-winged angel listened to them in shock. He had to admit that the Holy Maiden was special. The poison in his body had been neutralized in just a few minutes. His life was no longer in danger, but his body was still weak. When he'd seen the lightning punishment emperor take action, he'd been stunned. He'd never imagined Ji Yuan would have such an expert outside of the Imperial Star. Yi Hui's actions left him even more speechless. He'd always been by his side, so he knew exactly how strong Yi Hui was. As for him, he'd actually two godheads. This completely overturned the gods' understanding of godhead. Since ancient times, no one had ever condensed two godheads. Even in the second stage of divine focus, he'd had to give up one. Otherwise, his body would explode and he'd die. Two godheads at the same time. That was completely impossible. But now that the truth was right in front of him, he had no choice but to believe it. He had no choice but to accept this appalling fact. Amidst his shock, he couldn't help but feel sad. Yi Hui. He really was a genius of the angel race. Just from the fact that he'd condensed two godheads, he was already unprecedented. If he'd become an angel king, the angel race would have flourished. In time, even Yale would be beneath him. Unfortunately, he'd gone astray. His heart ached, but to his surprise, the demon elite's words stunned him even more. They thought that little girl could win. They even pitied Yi Hui. Didn't they know the power of a godhead? Moreover, a dual godhead wasn't just a simple addition, but an exponential increase. The current Yi Hui, even an angel king wouldn't be his match. What was so special about this little girl? You've always been here. Under the Holy Maiden's indifferent gaze, Yi Hui wasn't as calm as she was. I can't? The collision of darkness and light resulted in an atomic explosion. This power was enough to destroy an entire plane. How could someone survive an explosion unscathed? What nonsense was this? From Yi Hui's expression, it was clear that he didn't believe it. The Holy Maiden didn't pay too much attention to this. She smiled faintly. Just because you don't believe it doesn't mean it's impossible. Take your two godheads for example. Who would believe you if you told others? You still have two. That's different. Yi Hui roared. What's different about it? The Holy Maiden's expression was still cold. Right? I heard you say that darkness can only be a shadow of light? Yes, that's what I said. Yi Hui was still shocked that the Holy Maiden had survived the explosion, but he couldn't back down. Then let me teach you another lesson. Chapter 1984. Darkness. So dark that not a speck of light could be seen. Boundless darkness enveloped the entire void outside the epoch. There was no light. He couldn't see anything with his spiritual sense, let alone his naked eyes. Only then would people realize how important light was. If they lost light, everything would lose its meaning of existence. No, the darkness beneath the Holy Maiden's feet stretched out like tentacles, grabbing at Yihui's light. The light that left the Lightning Emperor at a loss. At this moment, it was as fragile as a thin piece of paper. The tentacles tore it apart without any resistance. The more it tore, the more light disappeared. Eventually, the light that was so dazzling it covered the entire world was torn apart, leaving only a speck of light beneath his feet. Yihui panicked. He struggled with all his might, activating the divine spark above his head in an attempt to extend his domain. What's the point of struggling? The Holy Maiden scoffed. She raised a finger and clenched it. In the blink of an eye, the last bit of light beneath Yihui's feet was swallowed by darkness. His eyes, his divine sense, everything about him, everything was shrouded in darkness. Panic, fear, doubt, all the negative emotions that would appear in the darkness swirled around his heart. He waved his hands wildly, unleashing his angelic power without a target. This was the only thing he could do, even though it would consume a large amount of his angelic power. He had to do this. If he didn't resist and just waited for death, he would be like a blind man in the darkness. In the end, he would be toyed with by the enemy. Unleashing angelic power without a target, at least it would be a bit of a deterrent. Let's hope so. This was the only thing Yihui could think of. If he imagined the Holy Maiden acting like daylight in the darkness, then it would be better for him to just surrender himself. But he couldn't figure it out. After condensing 2 divine sparks, his power wasn't any weaker than an angel king's. Why had he lost to a woman from a mere epoch? Moreover, he was suppressed to the point where he couldn't resist at all. Our people, don't move. Someone shouted in the darkness among the demon elites. The other demons followed suit. Although they were still panicking, anyone who was deprived of light would subconsciously panic. However, compared to Yihui's terror, their situation was much better. No matter what, the person who released the domain of darkness was their Holy Maiden. They pledged their loyalty to her. The Saintess wouldn't do anything to them. Heavens, the shock in the 8-winged angel's heart had reached an extreme point. Could it be that the person Yihui was facing now was the Darkness God King? In his memory, the only person who could use the power of darkness to such an extent was the Darkness God King. After his death, there was no one in the world who could use this power to such an extent. It was pitch black without any flaws, completely abandoning the light. The only thing the people could feel was darkness, as if their eyes had lost their original function. What shocked him even more was, even his divine sense was sealed in the darkness. Under such circumstances, the only thing they could do was to stay put obediently. As for life and death, it was no longer something they could control. Darkness, no one knew what was happening in the darkness. Without light, it was as if all the other senses were weakened. Frequently releasing angel power, even though Yihui was a 6-winged angel, he was exhausted. Come on, come on. Don't hide in the corner, come out. In the darkness, Yihui could only yell angrily to stabilize his emotions. This kind of darkness was too torturous. It was the kind of fear that the Holy Maiden of the demon race would suddenly appear behind him. The anxiety in his heart. No one could understand it. Yihui felt like he was going crazy. To be honest, if this continued, even if the demon's Holy Maiden didn't do anything to him, he would go crazy himself. Perhaps the only thing that comforted him was, the divine spark on top of his head was still bright. Unfortunately, the divine spark's light couldn't even reach 10 centimeters. Beyond that, it was still pitch black. Come out! What, can't take it anymore? A faint whisper suddenly appeared in his ear. Yi Hui's ears twitched, and he swung his hand in the direction of the voice. Did I hit? Yi Hui focused on listening to the situation. It seems you're really panicking. Do you think you can hurt me by attacking in such a hurry? Bang his back again. Yi Hui was kicked again in the same position as before. The wound that had already scabbed over was torn open again. Yi Hui's brows furrowed in pain. He swung his wings at the spot he'd just been injured. Idiot, do you think I'll wait for you here? This kick is for your idiotic words. This kick is for that old man. This kick is for my lollipop. This kick is for my lollipop. This kick is for my lollipop, one kick after another. The demon's holy maiden kept attacking Yi Hui with her own feet. She didn't want to dirty her hands with his attacks. Yi Hui didn't know where the holy maiden was going to attack from, so he could only endure the abuse she was giving him. Didn't you say that darkness can only be the shadow of light? Why is the light you once trusted gone? Why is the light you relied on gone? Why aren't you arrogant anymore? By his ear, the mocking words pierced Yi Hui's heart like needles. He couldn't retort. He didn't know how to retort. His light had been swallowed by darkness. This definitely defied common sense. First came light, then came darkness. When light appeared, darkness retreated. Light was absolutely superior to darkness. Not to mention at the same level, even if they weren't on the same level, light could still suppress darkness. Why? Darkness would swallow light. His godhead didn't respond at all. Then, he saw with his own eyes that his godhead was crawling with dark threads. After that, swallowed. There was no more light. This, impossible. His godhead was the core of light. It couldn't be swallowed. It had to be fake. As long as the light didn't dissipate, his godhead wouldn't be destroyed. He didn't believe that the demon's holy maiden could swallow all the light in the universe. She couldn't do it. No one could do it. There was only one possibility. You aren't using the power of darkness at all. Suddenly, Yi Hui raised his head and shouted angrily in an unknown direction. At this time, the holy maiden patted his head and transmitted a message to him. Chapter 1985. If it wasn't for his divinity being devoured. Yi Hui still couldn't understand why darkness could devour light. When his divinity also turned into darkness, he suddenly thought of when he was young, when he had just condensed his divinity. Grandmaster, look, I'm concentrating. He looked to be in his teens. His face was still filled with childishness, and a joyful smile filled his face. He was concentrating. It was the 3rd year since he went to the Yi clan. Because he was an orphan, his physique was very different from other angels. In order to adjust his body, he had spent a full 2 years. It had only been half a year since he started cultivating. With the old woman and the old man's careful nurturing, and his unremitting efforts, he was concentrating. At that time, the old woman and the old man were his everything. The first thing he thought of was to inform them and make them happy. And he wasn't disappointed. The old woman and the old man smiled brightly. Light divinity, looks like you're a really good angel. He clearly remembered that the old man was sitting on a stone chair at that time, holding a cup of wine brewed by the angel race in his hand. Seeing him concentrating, the old man put down his favorite wine, held Yi Hui in his arms, and looked at the gem above his head that was dazzling even in the daytime. Yi Hui is really a little genius, he condensed in half a year. The old woman smiled brightly, and lightly patted Yi Hui's head. Yi Hui enjoyed all of this, and was glad that his hard work paid off. His reward was the old woman and the old man's smiles. Grandmaster, you said this is light divinity. Does divinity have a name? The young Yi Hui asked in confusion. Of course, look, as he spoke, a divinity appeared above the old man's head. Pure gold. The divinity was also several times larger than Yi Hui's divinity when he condensed. Mine is the most common divinity of the god race. Common? Yi Hui repeated. The old man was very patient with Yi Hui, even though Yi Hui was still a child who didn't understand anything. he carefully explained. All gods can condense, and the divinity they usually condense is this gold. Oh, then mine is also. Yi Hui looked at the gold light of his divinity. No, your godhood is not ordinary. The old man patted his little head. Look carefully, there is some pure white color in your godhood, isn't there? Yi Hui looked over. After a long time, it's true. This is light godhood. It's above ordinary godhood, and it contains the power of light. Then aren't I very powerful? Of course, light and darkness godhood are very rare. Previously, the darkness god king had a light godhead. What? Yi Hui was stunned. The god of darkness has a light godhead? Even though he was young and the darkness god king had fallen a long time ago when he was born, he knew that the darkness god king used the power of darkness and condensed the darkness godhood. Grandmaster, did you say something wrong? Ha 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 ha, you don't understand. The old man laughed and said, the darkness god king indeed used the power of darkness, but his divine spark is indeed the light divine spark. Yi Hui's heart was filled with confusion, and then he heard, the extreme of light is darkness. In the darkness, the eight-winged old man muttered to himself, this, it's light. Yi Hui came to a sudden realization. He'd never seen someone who could use the power of light to the extreme. He'd even forgotten what the eight-winged old man had said to him. At this moment, he remembered. He understood everything now. He hadn't been swallowed by the darkness at all. It was just that his opponent's light was too extreme, and his senses couldn't see any other light. But it was just as the holy maiden had said. So what if he understood? It was too late. Crack. A crisp sound rang out above Yi Hui's head. As soon as it did, he felt the divine power in his body drain away. This feeling, no. Yi Hui threw his head back and howled, flapping his wings and struggling with all his might. However, he discovered that he'd been completely sealed in an environment where he couldn't move. He didn't want to. This was clearly the loss of his divine power after his divine spark shattered. Just now, the holy maiden had crushed his divine spark. No! What's the point of struggling? It's a pity that you've only had 2 divine sparks for a short time. The holy maiden smiled faintly. In the darkness, golden powder seemed to fall from her hands. At the same time, the darkness gradually receded. The demons could feel the recovery of light. However, they'd been deprived of light for too long. Even the slightest ray of light stung their eyes. You didn't condense the divine spark yourself, so you won't be able to use it as easily as your own divine spark. Moreover, your divine spark isn't compatible with your constitution, so you can't use it to your full potential. The holy maiden said as she sprinkled the golden powder in her hand. This divine spark places a heavy burden on your body, right? Do you feel a stabbing pain in your heart when you use your power? She was right. When Yi Hui used the power of his divine spark, he'd felt a sharp pain in his heart. He'd once asked Yale. Yale said it was normal. He didn't mind the answer, but the stabbing pain was so intense that he hadn't used it after returning to the angels. If not for the pressure from the Lightning Emperor, he still wouldn't use the power of his divine spark. You're smart. You don't use it often. If you did, you'd be dead in less than half a year. The holy maiden narrowed her eyes and smiled. Then, she placed her hand on Yi Hui's second divine spark. Don't. The darkness hadn't yet retreated from Yi Hui's body, but for some reason, he could sense the holy maiden's movements. He trembled and prayed. This divine spark couldn't break any more. If it did, everything he'd done would be for naught. Let me go, and I'll share information about having multiple divine sparks with you. Let me go. I have value. What a smart person. You know how to declare your value before your death and fight for a chance at survival. The holy maiden chuckled, but she didn't hesitate to squeeze Yi Hui's divine spark. Crack, no. The crisp sound plunged Yi Hui into despair. Why? Don't you want to know? Ha ha ha, adorable fellow, do you think I need it? The darkness receded. Yi Hui, immersed in darkness, finally regained his senses. Face ashen, he stared at his second cracked divine spark. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw, did you see that? Chapter 1986. Divine Spark. 2. After Yale, Yi Hui saw the second person with 2 divine sparks above his head. He still remembered, it was when Yale found him. Yi Hui was so disdainful of Yale. He absolutely hated Yale. No matter how the old man and old woman treated him, the Angel Clan was his home. Yale sealed the entire Angel Clan, killed the Angel King and the God King, and usurped the God King position. In Yi Hui's eyes, Yale was just a lucky ambitious person. He didn't want to be associated with him. Until he saw the divine sparks above Yale's head. 4. A total of 4 divine sparks hovered above his head. Yi Hui's shock was the same as the 8-winged angel not long ago. You can join this emperor too. This is a technology that this emperor recently discovered. In the future, this emperor will let the entire god race have multiple divine sparks. If you join, you'll be a pioneer. This emperor knows you have a light divine spark. This emperor can help you find a second radiant divine spark that will make you stronger than the previous Angel King. In the future, you'll be the Angel King. How about it, interested? Yi Hui agreed. Not to mention him, anyone would find it hard to resist such temptation. Yale told him at the time, he was very lucky. He was the second god to have multiple divine sparks. When the divine sparks truly blessed him, he felt not only a sudden increase in power, but also disbelief. He thought if he really succeeded, then the entire god race would be upgraded. Yi Hui willingly went to work for Yale. Before he left, Yale told him to stay in the Angel Clan. During this time, Yale would continue to talk to the Angel Clan. When there was a certain number, he would let them go. At that time, it would be time for him to shine. He had always remembered this. He was even looking forward to Yale's future implementation of this technology. He thought that only Yale had this technology. He didn't expect, how could you have 2 divine sparks, is it strange? The demon saintess shrugged. This method was originally discovered by us demons. It was the demon emperor who joined your god race in the last era. He discovered this technology. You guys? Your divine deity was given to you by Yale, right? It seems like our demon lord is really too close to your lord Yale. He even told him about this technique. The holy maiden sighed and shook her head. The previous era's prime demon emperor was truly a genius. He snatched the transcendence of the second era's star lord and researched the technology that could accommodate multiple godhoods. If he had served the new era wholeheartedly, your god race would have been destroyed long ago. Unfortunately, he sided with you. How did you know about the matters of the last epoch? That's right. I'm the survivor from the last epoch that you speak of. The holy maiden giggled as she tightened her grip on the godhead. Yi Hui had been sealed. He knew that there was no way he could fight for his life. Now that he had lost a godhead, he could forget about breaking free of the holy maiden's seal. Since that was the case, he wanted to understand more things before he died. Won't your body feel burdened with 2 godhoods? Yi Hui knew that his heart was aching mainly because the power of the godheads was too great for his soul to contain. The burden on his soul was reflected in his heart. That was why he felt as if his heart was being cut by a knife when he used the second godhead. Yale. Something like this had also happened. However, his soul was much stronger than Yi Hui's, so he could bear the burden even with 4 godheads. The holy maiden also had 2 godheads. She didn't seem to be burdened by it either. Of course, all of this was just his speculation. It had never been proven. In the end, he wanted to ask tentatively, "You've devoured a treasure that strengthens the soul? Oh, it seems you know a thing or two. You know that the burden of a godhead is on the soul." The holy maiden straightened her back in shock, and Yi Hui only smiled bitterly and didn't say anything else. However, he knew. What affected the number of godheads was the soul. I've never devoured a soul-type treasure. Then how did you do it? Me. Just as the Holy Maiden was about to say something, the sound of two figures tearing through the air suddenly rang out. They were the sovereign of numinous treasure and Bayan. The sovereign of numinous treasure hadn't paid much attention to Emperor Bayan. He hadn't expected Bayan to keep up with them this entire time. He couldn't help but regard Bayan in a higher light. However, when he arrived, he discovered that the Holy Maiden had already dealt with the angels. Even the six-winged angel, Yi Hui, had been captured by her. It seems we're too late? The Venerable of Numinous Treasure shrugged. Emperor Bayan, who was following behind, was also shocked by the scene. He understood why Yi Zichen had called him back. Unfortunately, he didn't need them at all. So you know you're too late. If not for our Holy Maiden, your era would have long since been overrun by these jackals, said the Lightning Emperor with a sinister smile. You're the Lightning Emperor? When Emperor Bayan saw him, he was stunned. He never would have guessed the Lightning Emperor would look like this. Bayan, long time no see. The Lightning Emperor laughed contemptuously. Your aura. You're no match for me right now. The Lightning Emperor snorted, but Bayan inwardly nodded. It didn't matter whether the Lightning Emperor was deliberately putting on an act or not. From the aura he'd released just now, Bayan could tell he was already above the other great emperors. But it was interesting. When the Lightning Emperor betrayed the gods and allied with the demons, the entire god realm was shaken. In the end, the demons became Ji Yuan's comrades in arms, and the Lightning Emperor naturally became his comrade. It seems you've found a good master, said Bayan sincerely. Regardless of the Lightning Emperor's current state, which was neither human nor ghost, his strength had truly increased. You've already dealt with the angels, so we won't waste any more time. As for Emperor Yi, Bayan, don't go. The Holy Maiden suddenly called out, stopping the sovereign and Bayan. You came just in time. I'm not joking. We've already dealt with it, but don't expect us to clean up the scene. Who said we've dealt with it? The Holy Maiden called out to the distant void, don't worry about it. How much longer are you going to watch? This guy's about to die. Stop hiding. I noticed you a long time ago. Chapter 1987. There were others? The Venerable and Emperor Bayan instantly composed themselves and looked warily in the direction of the Holy Maiden's voice. As they watched, the Venerable spread his divine sense outwards. Scoundrels! Boom! An explosion of light shot forward. Before the halo could travel too far, it was absorbed. Soon after, two figures appeared in the void. Your Excellency! Save me! The moment Yi Hui saw the two of them, an endless hope of survival burst forth from him as he shouted at them. But that wasn't all. The godhead above his head began to shine brilliantly. He seemed to have awakened some sort of latent potential and broke free of the Holy Maiden's restraint. Cough. The Holy Maiden couldn't help but cough up a mouthful of blood. Everything had happened too suddenly. Not even the Thunder Punishment Emperor had time to react. The Venerable and Emperor Bayan didn't think the Holy Maiden would have any trouble dealing with that angel, so they didn't take him seriously. By the time they reacted, Yi Hui had already reached the side of the two extraterritorial gods. It was naturally too late to chase after him. They could only hurry to the Holy Maiden's side. Holy Maiden! The Thunder Punishment Emperor's eyes were filled with anxiety. The Venerable and Emperor Bayan were equally concerned. It's fine. The Holy Maiden looked exhausted. It was easier said than done to suppress Yi Hui, who had two godheads, to the point where she couldn't resist at all. It seemed as if the Holy Maiden had been relaxed. Little did she know. Her situation was far worse than it seemed. She could only act tough. She'd sensed the arrival of the outsiders even before she'd attacked. If nothing unexpected happened, they'd most likely come to assist the angels in attacking the new era. In order to prevent them from attacking, The holy maiden had pretended to be invincible. She dared not interfere. Just now, she hadn't crushed Yi Hui's second godhead because her situation didn't allow her to continue. She had to endure until the venerable and Emperor Bai'an arrived. That was why when she saw the venerable and Bai'an, she seemed relieved of a heavy burden. She favored Yi Zichen even more. Truly, his arrangements were too meticulous. So meticulous that everything was just right. She even wondered if he'd been watching them all this time, or if he'd foreseen the future. Otherwise, how could they arrange things to such an extent? I'm a little tired. I'll leave the rest to you. With the thunder-punishing Emperor assisting you, those fellows shouldn't be a problem. The exhausted Holy Maiden was sent to the back. The Holy Maiden couldn't help but whisper. I told you to cultivate, but you didn't listen. See? Your soul is dragging me down. If they hadn't come in time, we would have all died here. After muttering to herself, she ignored the distress in the venerable of numinous treasure and Bai'an's eyes. Two souls in one body, only the Holy Maiden's trusted aides and Emperor Star Yi Zichen knew about this. It wasn't strange for the others to be shocked. Right, our mission is to ensure that Ji Yuan doesn't get ambushed. There's no need to fight to the death with them. Trust me, Yi Zichen, I don't want you to be injured too badly. We can let the gods go, but the angel must die. This was the result that Sun Yaij wanted. After hearing Yi Hui's shameless words, Sun Yaij, who had always been very gentle, had already reached the limit of her tolerance towards him. This was the first time for so long. This was the first time the Holy Maiden had heard Sun Yaij want to die alone. Naturally, she had to satisfy her little sister's request. Furthermore, even the Holy Maiden, who'd always disagreed with her, rarely agreed with her. This kind of scum. He didn't deserve to live. Don't worry, he won't survive. The venerable of numinous treasure smiled and nodded. He thinks he's safe, but that's where the true danger lies. Yi Hui had just escaped the wolf's den, only to enter the tiger's den. His eyes brimmed with excitement. He'd survived. He should have been doomed, but he'd survived. Now, he didn't need to worry at all. The gods by his side had most likely been sent to assist him in attacking Ji Yuan. In other words, their loyalty was to Yale. Yi Hui. They were Yale's trusted aides. Hurry up and leave. Our plan to destroy Ji Yuan has failed. You should have seen it for yourself. That little girl is extremely skilled. We can't deal with her at all. Her earlier show of weakness might have been a trap. The people of Ji Yuan are too cunning. We need to hurry back and think things over. Yi Hui commanded the two true gods beside him in a bossy manner. He'd suffered a great loss here. His angels had been killed before he could even use them. As for him, he'd even lost a godhead. It could be said that he'd suffered a great loss in this attack. Fortunately, he knew the secret of storing godheads. When he returned to the god race and reported to Yale, he wouldn't return empty-handed. Are you the angel who's been in contact with us? The old man among the true gods, Yi Hui, who didn't have much emotion in his eyes, said, It's me. I'm the one who's been in contact with you and revealed the angel's whereabouts. Alright, that's not important. The plan to attack Ji Yuan has failed. We need to hurry. Yi Hui's chest was pierced. Yi Hui's words were cut short by the sudden attack from the god next to him. He looked down at the bloody hole in his chest. You still dare to admit it? You. Yi Hui pointed at the two gods. You. Is it fun to be a double agent? You. What are you talking about? I'm the angel who's been in contact with you. We saw what that girl did. She sealed you, so how did you get out? The old god interrupted Yi Hui's words coldly. He then chuckled and said, She intentionally let you go so that you could follow us back to the god race and continue to be one of them. We have to go under cover. We arrived a few minutes later than you. There are so many angels here. Don't tell me you can't even hold on for a few minutes? This is part of your plan, right? What the hell are you talking about? Still pretending? The old god's eyes were filled with disdain. He flipped his hand and took out a gem. This is the message my subordinate sent me before he died. Do you want to see for yourself? Zhang Xian took the gemstone and sent his divine perception into it. Commander-in-Chief, the Angel Clansman is a traitor. He didn't sincerely pledge his allegiance to us. He's a double agent. Our people are all dead. Bang! The gem was suddenly crushed by Yi Hui. That's not me. Do you think I will believe my subordinate or an outsider like you? Without giving Yi Hui any room to explain, the old god raised his hand and grabbed Yi Hui's cracked godhead. Under Yi Hui's horrified gaze. Chapter 1988. That's fake. I still have something to say to Lord Yale. You can't kill. His godhead shattered. His soul shattered. In the instant that Yi Hui's godhead was crushed, his eyes turned gray, and he fell from the sky lifelessly. This was the outer realm. No one knew where he'd land. In other words, this was what it meant by not even leaving a corpse behind. The old god didn't even glance at Yi Hui, nor did he listen to what he'd said. It was all fake. That traitor wanted to go double undercover with them. How laughable. Did he think that the people of the outer realm god race were fools? The Holy Maiden, the eight-winged elder, and the others were dumbfounded. Yi Hui had killed that god. Weren't they accomplices? Only the Venerable of Numinous Treasure didn't seem surprised at all. He'd sent the message. He'd sent it for this very moment. That angel couldn't live. He'd said Jesus couldn't save him. As for who Jesus was, the Venerable of Numinous Treasure didn't know. He'd only heard Yi Zichen say it was cool, so he'd remembered it. Ants of the new era. The old god who'd killed Yi Hui shouted from afar. From the looks of it, he had no intention of fighting. He simply stood 100 meters away with the people beside him. In the face of absolute strength, all schemes are useless. The god race will trample your era. Bayan had a bad temper. Back in the outside, he'd been beaten so badly they couldn't even leave their doors. Now, he could still spout bullshit. He swung his right hand. The hidden dragon sword flew out of its sheath. Don't go. The Venerable of Numinous Treasure reached out. The Holy Maiden signaled for Bai and to stay put. Their goal was to ensure the new era's safety. Not to kill the enemy. Now that the new era's crisis had been resolved, the two gods showed no signs of wanting to attack. There was no need for them to cause unnecessary trouble. No one knew. Were there any ambushes waiting behind them? Humph, this kind of braggart, seriously. Killing them will only dirty my sword. He swung his hand again, and the hidden dragon's sword returned to its sheath. Little did they know, Lao Ai's swing of his sword just now had frightened the two gods. Seeing him sheathe his sword, the expressions of the two gods became slightly better. At the same time, the Venerable Lord of Numinous Treasure said, I wish you success. Humph. The deities retreated. The elites of the devil race and the Venerable of Numinous Treasure waited for a long time to make sure that there were no enemies around before they prepared to return to the era. The eight-winged, elderly man stared at the spot where Yi Hui had died and sighed. What a pity! He was a child that he had watched grow up. In the end, he went astray and died just like that. All right, Yi Lin and Yi Yu should be able to rest in peace. Thus, Venerable of Numinous Treasure and Great Emperor Bai Wu were left in the new era. No one knew if there would be another attack from the divine beings. Not until the Holy Maiden's condition improved. Even Ji Yuan didn't have an existence that could stand alone, so the two of them had to stay. The eight-winged angel learned about the situation on the old woman's side from the Venerable of Lingbao. He also knew that they had mistakenly sealed the Venerable of Lingbao and almost became Yi Hui's scheme. After expressing his apologies, the eight-winged elder wanted to go back and bring his clansmen back, but he was stopped by the Venerable of Lingbao. He did not know the situation of the extraterritorial gods. The eight-winged elder's poison had not been cleansed yet. Going back might be like sending a sheep into a tiger's mouth. He stayed. He could also manage the angels who had lost their mind. With the holy maiden of the devil race, the angels already had an antidote for the hallucinogenic drug. Day after day, the Venerable of Lingbao and the others were strengthening Ji Yuan's defenses. Ji Yuan's army also stayed outside the era. The outer realm celestial race did not send out their army, and Ji Yuan did not attack. It was as if the war had stopped just like that. But this was all just on the surface. The outer realm celestial race's barrier had always been deliberately torn apart. As long as the barrier did not work, it meant that Ji Yuan always had the desire to attack. Bai Ning knew this clearly. He was also happy to wait like this. As long as his plan succeeded, Ji Yuan would definitely be thrown into confusion. At that time, the outer realm celestial race's pursuit would be twice the result with half the effort. He just had to wait. "My lord, your subordinate has returned." Outside the tent, the old god who had appeared outside the era walked into the tent. As soon as he entered, the old god's face changed. "Old fox. You're back. How was it?" Bai Ning walked out with a concerned look, his eyes filled with anticipation. The mission he had secretly given to Old Fox was to join up with the angels to attack Ji Yuan. When the angels left the celestial race, he had deliberately let them pass. It was all for, "There's a problem." A troubled look flashed in Old Fox's eyes. "The angels who contacted us is a double agent." "Double agent?" Bai Ning frowned. "Yes, he pretended to cooperate with us, but in fact, he was working for the angels and Ji Yuan." "How is that possible?" Bai Ning did not believe it. He had heard from Yale that Yi Hui could be considered half his trusted aide. As for why Yale trusted Yi Hui so much, Bai Ning did not know. But since Yale had said that, it meant that Yi Hui was trustworthy. Old Fox said that he was a double agent. Utter nonsense. Yale's character was not good, but Bai Ning still had to look up to him when it came to certain things. He did not believe that Yale would be deceived by someone. "What happened? I need to know it word for word." "Yes, it's a long story." Old Fox did not dare to delay. He hurriedly told him everything he knew and saw. There was no embellishment in it. It was completely factual. It was really, he did not dare to lie. Bai Ning did not dislike him for being long-winded. He listened to everything he said carefully. "Until, you were killed by him?" Bai Ning tilted his head, speechless and puzzled. Old Fox nodded slightly. He felt that he had done the right thing. It would be a disaster to keep this kind of person alive. Kill. Who the F***ck asked you to kill him?" Bang. Bai Ning kicked the old fox, sending him flying dozens of meters out of the tent. The gods outside were stunned. Thinking that this was Commander Bai Ning's tent, they all shrunk their necks and pretended not to see anything and continued to patrol. "Who asked you to kill him? Who asked?" "Commander, that guy is a traitor. It's useless to keep this kind of person." "Why keep him, traitor?" Bang. Another kick. Old Fox lost his balance and fell to the ground. Bai Ning followed up with another round of fierce kick. "Traitor, I asked you to be a traitor. I asked you to be a traitor. I think you are the F***king traitor. My plan almost succeeded, but it was all ruined by you idiot. Commander, get lost. Get lost. Don't let me see you again." Bai Ning's beard trembled. Old Fox swallowed his saliva, thinking that Bai Ning was crazy. He limped away. Chapter 1989. Outside the Outerium Protoss tent, Bai Ning's temper could be heard even from 100 meters away. The patrolling true gods would subconsciously move away, afraid that Bai Ning, who was in a fit of anger, would find trouble with them. Idiot! 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 The simple tent had been destroyed beyond recognition by Bai Ning. The ground was full of charred pits, and the tables and chairs inside were smashed to pieces. Bai Ning was about to break down. Ever since he took the position of Commander-in-Chief, everything had made him unhappy. Commander, he did not do it willingly. It was Yale who used his daughter to threaten him. He had no choice but to sit in this position. Fortunately, Yale did not interfere too much with him, and put all the military power in his hands. He was satisfied with this. Why did Yale put such a group of idiots under his command? A few months ago, he had mentioned the need to pay attention to the Autorium Protoss internal defense. Despite Yale's position, the Autorium Protoss had been invading and winning every battle. Countless were terrified by the Autorium Protoss power. Many planes had surrendered before the war had even started, becoming colonized by the Autorium Protoss. Submit. Submit. It seemed glorious, but little did they know that the Autorium Protoss was only strong on the outside. To invade, the Autorium Protoss had used many of their military power outside, causing their internal defense to be as fragile as a piece of paper. If anyone attacked the Protoss directly, they would be in an absolute passive position. Therefore, Bai Ning mentioned this. In the end, no one listened. Victory might have boosted the morale of the Autorium Protoss, but it also made them proud. No one thought that any plane would be stupid enough to start a war with them. No one in the Protoss carried out his orders. In the end, it was Bai Ning who took tough measures to set up a border guard at the border of the Protoss. This made the Protoss soldiers a little nervous. But Bai Ning knew that this was not enough. He reported it to Yale. Yale seemed to agree with his approach, but he did not say anything to the other commanders. Instead, he set up a boundary around the Autorium Protoss territory. Since then, it was as if he had disappeared. All the burdens were on Bai Ning's shoulders, and Bai Ning also proposed the internal defense of the Protoss. Still, no one agreed. It was still the same words as before, but this time, they had one more sentence. Are you doubting Lord Yale's strength? Doubt? How could Bai Ning doubt it? Patting his conscience, Bai Ning acknowledged Yale's power. At this moment, he, who was sitting on the throne of the Divine Emperor, might be much stronger than the previous Divine Emperor, the number one person of the divine race. But his strength did not mean that he was invincible. Bai Ning always believed in one sentence. There is always someone better than you out there. It was just a layer of enchantment. To what extent could it protect the God race? Just because of a layer of enchantment, the God race could sit back and relax? No one listened to him. After that, Ji Yuan fought his way in. After fighting their way in, they panicked and began to organize their troops in a flurry, preparing to face the enemy. At that time, they had trusted the barrier so much, but now they no longer trusted it. Based on his own thoughts, he didn't listen to him, the commander-in-chief's words, and used his own self-righteous brain to open the barrier and take the initiative to face the enemy. They had provided a great deal of war preparations for the new era, and they had greatly damaged the God race's vitality. Yale couldn't find him. The heavy responsibility of defending the God race was completely handed over to Bai Ning. He braced himself and picked up the mess, racking his brains to think of a possibility that could let the God race heave a sigh of relief or even counterattack. In the end, it was gone. He was personally buried by that self-righteous old fox. Traitor? Double undercover. Bai Ning, who was sitting on the ground of the tent, was so angry that he couldn't help but laugh. Was he an idiot? Why didn't he think of such an obvious danger? Taking 10,000 steps back, even if Yi Hui was a spy, would it be the old fox's turn to deal with him? Wouldn't it be better to capture him and interrogate him? Moreover, Yi Hui had said that he had obtained useful information. Regardless of whether what he said was true or false, at least let him say the information, okay? No. Not at all. He had killed him directly. The old fox remembered Bai Ning's words. The merciful did not command an army. One should not hesitate in life. But wasn't he a little too decisive? As for those commander-in-chief, they were only afraid of him. In some matters they still did what they thought. Bai Ning would rather they were the kind of people who disagreed with him during discussions, but still listened to his orders when dealing with matters. He also didn't want to. They were the kind of people who acted as they pleased. They were idiots who did things their own way behind the scenes. Bai Ning, who was sitting paralyzed on the ground, held his head in his hands. In less than an hour, he seemed to have aged more than a few thousand years. His face was full of worry and fatigue. He really felt that he was too tired. This was not a game between him and Ji Yuan at all. It was a game between him and the whole world. His subordinates were not his subordinates at all. They were all King spies sent by the other side. It's my fault. After a long time, Bai Ning, who was sitting on the ground, said to himself. His fault was that he shouldn't have trusted that old fox and let him handle such an important task. When Bai Ning followed the God King of Darkness, the old fox was already very experienced in the army. In the end, Bai Ning became the commander-in-chief, and the old fox was still a deputy general. This was not without reason. He was really stupid. Someone come. Bai Ning called out weakly to the outside of the tent. He patted the dust off his body and stood up. At this time, no matter how angry he was, it was useless. Ji Yuan had not withdrawn yet, and everything needed to be handled by him. Not for anything else. As the commander-in-chief of the Outer Realm Protoss, as long as he was alive, he would work hard for the Protoss. However, Bai Ning had been angry just now, and the gods outside the tent had already retreated. His call, which was not particularly loud, did not get a reply from the others. Someone come. Are you all King deaf? Bai Ning shouted angrily. Yes, sir. Several commander-in-chiefs ran in from outside. Bai Ning looked at them with an unfriendly gaze, especially when he saw the old fox standing at the edge with his head buried deep. Bai Ning was so angry that his teeth itched. How many soldiers and slaves are left to fight? There are less than 3 million people in the Protoss, and about 20 million slaves. Most of our troops have been sent to invade other planes, and the ones left here are actually ordinary higher gods. What about Ji Yuan? About 10 million elite soldiers and their cannons. A conservative estimate is that if we fight them head-on, our chances of winning are less than 20%. The commander-in-chief buried his head deeply. It was a shame for them, the commander-in-chiefs, to say such words. The Outer Realm Protoss were invincible. Chapter 1990. Less than 20%? How dare he say that? The dignified Outer Realm God race, the highest race that once stood side by side with the Devil race. Facing Ji Yuan less than 20%? Bai Ning was also confused by the commander and directly said the words of surrender. As soon as he said that, the commanders were all stunned. They doubted their ears. Did Bai Ning just say surrender to them? Commander, you can't do that. Bang! Bai Ning directly slapped the commander who spoke. The force was so strong that the commander flew a few meters away. They kept quiet out of fear. The surrounding commanders all swallowed their saliva, feeling pity for the commander who was slapped. They were even more careful with their words and actions. Bai Ning seemed to have gone crazy. He had lost his temper in the tent before, and he was definitely still angry at this time. If anyone provoked him again, they were afraid that they would suffer worse than the commander just now. After slapping that commander, Bai Ning did not say anything. Under this silence, the other commanders must be trying to figure out Bai Ning's meaning. Bai Ning said surrender. That commander said no, and then he was slapped. Could it be, actually, I think surrender is also a solution. Our current situation is already very bad, and Lord Yale has not appeared. Surrender is actually, bang, in an instant, the commander who spoke directly flew out of the tent. I think that pretending to surrender, bang, another one flew out. The commanders who stayed in the tent were all trembling. Was Bai Ning out of his mind? Surrender was not allowed. Not to surrender. Not to surrender was not allowed either. What kind of answer did he want? Could he say it directly and not let his subordinates guess? It was said that accompanying the king was like accompanying a tiger. Now these commanders felt that Bai Ning was even more difficult to figure out than the king's thoughts. The commanders deeply lowered their heads, for fear of looking Bai Ning in the eye. If they looked at each other, as long as they spoke, Bai Ning would directly slap them if he was not satisfied. You guys, very lucky. Just as the others in the tent were worried about when it would be their turn, Bai Ning spoke. Bai Ning was really angry. He was so angry that he could no longer suppress the fire in his heart. These commanders, were their brains filled with paste? Surrender? They were actually talking to him about surrender? Couldn't they tell that he was just saying it out of anger? Angry at their 20% chance of winning? Heavens! Bai Ning felt that his intelligence had been insulted. If he continued to be colleagues with these people, he was afraid that he would be infected by them. What's in your heads? Pointing at the heads of the other commanders in the tent, Bai Ning frowned and pulled their heads up one by one, making them look at each other. Without exception, no one could look into Bai Ning's eyes for more than 5 seconds. Some people even looked away the moment their eyes met. Can't you think of something useful? Surrender? Is your brain made of glue? Do you think I will surrender? He forcefully pushed the commanders back a few steps, but the other commanders still hung their heads low, not daring to breathe too loudly. I don't like the 20% chance you mentioned. No. I hate it. I've never lost a battle, and I don't like losing. I've never lost before, so I don't want to lose now either. I don't care what methods you use, flatten the enemies of the new era, or mend the hole outside, or else. There was a flash of blood. No one saw when a knife appeared in Bai Ning's hand. When they came back to their senses, all they saw was a patch of golden red and a severed finger. The cut on the finger was very fresh, and this hand, it seemed to belong to Bai Ning. Looking at Bai Ning's left hand, everyone found that his left finger had indeed been cut off. The wound was still bleeding, do you understand? Bai Ning looked at the commanders in the tent expressionlessly. The other commanders were frightened and did not respond for a while. I'm asking you, do you understand? Until this moment, the commanders came back to their senses. Your subordinate understands. Get lost. The commanders left upon hearing this. Before they left, they took a few glances at the severed finger and Bai Ning's bleeding hand in the tent. They understood now. How could a person who could be so ruthless to himself be merciful to them? If they were defeated, what Bai Ning took was their heads. In the outer domain void, the outer realm Protoss and the new era tacitly maintained a period of truce. During this period, the new era definitely did not know what the outer realm Protoss was doing. The new era. But he didn't just sit around. He distributed resources and waited for the final assault. In the sky, Yi Zichen looked straight ahead. The outer realm gods were right in front of him. From his vantage point, coincidentally, he could see the tallest building of the outer realm god, the divine imperial palace. Ever since arriving here, Yi Zichen would always come here and stand for a while, gazing at the tall tower. As for that tower, in truth, Yi Zichen had quite a few memories. Of course, he didn't have any particularly good ones, but although the former God Emperor had burdened him quite a bit, he didn't hate him. Yale. Yi Zichen hated him to the core. He couldn't understand how Yale had succeeded in usurping the throne of such a powerful God Emperor. After Yale came to power, the structure of the entire world would undergo an earth-shattering transformation. More importantly, he'd captured someone important to Yi Zichen. That's the place. Wait for me. Yi Zichen didn't know how many times he'd said the same thing. So long as he gazed at the tower, he'd repeat himself. There was Yale. No one could understand Yi Zichen's impatience. Right now, he really couldn't wait to get to Yale and tell him to release Yirong and the others. Unfortunately, he wasn't a Lone Ranger. He had the entire era behind him. For the sake of the bigger picture, he had to make decisions based on the bigger picture. Looking here again, Emperor Hades walked over with a cigarette in his mouth, then tossed one at Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen lit the cigarette in a practiced manner, then took a puff. This is a form of supervision. So long as I see that tower, I can't relax, and my heart feels even more tormented. Don't worry, they'll be fine. Of course I know. Yi Zichen nodded. I trust they'll be fine. Suffering is just motivation for me. I'm just waiting for the moment I see Yale, then I'll hand everything over to him. With that, Yi Zichen arched his brows. Since you're here, it seems you've heard from the Venerable of Numinous Treasure?